Yarg, me lads and lassies. Welcome into the Paladins Premier League. Today is National Pirates Day, but it's also PPL Day. Paladins Premier League, I'm your host, Fawn. It's very, very exciting. We have a bunch of matches for you guys to be able to see today. But of course, I can only do so much by one person. But I have Kresley here with me, too.
Unfortunately, your first mate today is not going to be speaking in that action. At least for now. I did it earlier, and I think I've hit my pirate quota. But yeah, I mean, this is not only is it Talk Like a Pirate Day, it's the first games that are being played on this Pirates Treasure patch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really excited to see what the pros have for us today. I mean, we've talked a lot about it. We've mentioned the patch before. We were mentioning it last week, mentioning it this week, and now it's finally here. So we'll probably see a few changes. Maybe some characters won't be as prioritized as some others in this patch, considering the fact that, certain characters got nerfed, other characters got sort of buffed. So, it's going to be very, very interesting, the matches that we have today.
Yeah, for sure. And then starting on, Navi Envy, this is something that is basically becoming a huge classic, honestly, in this game in general. Maybe more so than Navi Fnatic used to be. That's going to be a great start to the day. Kanga Renegades coming after that, but definitely a good one to start with. Ex-World Champion matchup from the last PWC. Should be a really good game.
Yeah, exactly. I believe the first game it is that we actually have today is Envy versus Natus Vincere. We're going to take a look at the standings real quick first to catch everybody up to how things are going in the Paladins Premier League. We have Natus Vincere in first, NIP second, Virtus Pro steadily climbing their way up. A dominant performance all around. Team Envy at fourth place, top 4 seed right there, followed by SSG, Kanga, Pittsburgh Knights, and Renegades in the very last spot in the standings.
And Navi reclaiming that first seed after NIP kind of falling off a little bit over time. Not going to see NIP this week, but we'll see Navi and see if they can kind of prove how much they deserve that first seed. The last time these two teams met up, it was a 4-3 win for Navi. Very close game on week 1. The longest day, basically, I think we've ever had in PPL history that day. But roster changes since then. We've seen creatives stepping out, Ninu coming in for Navi. So a different look for them. We haven't even seen Envy that much recently either, so it's kind of almost some unknowns heading into this week's games.
Right, exactly. Once again, we saw how well that Navi was doing as the split more specifically ended up progressing, especially with the added addition of Ninu. However, Envy, you made a very, very good point. It's been a little bit since we've actually seen them play, so it's a lot of unknowns sort of coming into this matchup to see how both of these teams are going to end up faring against each other, despite everything at this moment in the split.
Yeah, we saw one game from them last week recently, and I still think they're looking as good as you'd expect Team Envy to look. They still definitely have the same skill level and maybe not the same level of coordination, but they've been improving as this phase has been going on. Still the kind of quality of play you'd expect to see from them, and I don't think this patch is going to change too much from them. They were kind of a stalwart Torvald banner. Now that that's gone, they're going to be a little bit more flexible potentially. And speaking of Torvald, that King of the Ring matchup we just saw earlier, Torvald versus Phoenix. Phoenix got the better, but it was kind of the pool noodle slapping contest back and forth between two Torvalds. And probably won't see him today, but we will see Rubu continue to just establish himself as one of the best point tanks, off tanks, in North America.
Yeah, you already see the stats right here. 789 kills, 2.0 KDA, 67,000 damage, and 1,560 average healing. Rubu is a force to be reckoned with. Of course, he's known for his ruckus, but he's just a very good all-around off-tank player. He has the positioning, he has the pressure, he knows where it is that he wants to go, and he can always apply that pressure with the rest of his team. Envy, of course, being the previously world champions. In this case, Rubu
still technically reigning.
Still technically reigning. Of course, we'll have to see what happens at HRX this year. But regardless of that fact, Rubu, he's a very, very good off-tank player.
One thing about Rubu also is kind of how flexible he is to what his team wants to do. There's some off tanks that'll want to set the pace and go as fast as they want. Some that'll play a little slower towards their tone. And he can kind of do both. And that's important, being able to be flexible. Talking about flexibility too, Navi on the other side also a team that can kind of do a little bit of everything. They were rushing triple DPS at the start of this season. They kind of switched back to more standard once Ninu switched back into the lineup, but I think they've been looking pretty good recently.
Yeah, I agree with that. Of course, you can only mention one off-tank, Rubu, as well as the fact that that production actually just brought up a good point. Ninu has a jersey now. Finally, he has an actual team jersey now on Natus Vincere. They're literally, they can't be stopped at this point. They're actually too powerful.
We were getting some free advertising off of his shirts too. He was wearing high-res shirt after high-res shirt over and over. But Navi, more important that gets talked about. And talking about Navi in general, I think something that we kind of have discussed a lot in terms of I guess it's not really a shift into this role at this point, but Lazy has been I think he's definitely in contention for the best point tank in the league.
Yeah.
Constantly being able to apply damage, just knowing when to back up and push with his team. And Na'Vi plays so heavily centered around the objective that having a point tank as strong as Lazy, someone that knows when to push, when to pull back, and how to keep himself alive, I think is really important.
Yeah, I mean, once again, you see the stats here for Lazy, but it's I really like the points you brought up about Lazy because, like you said, his team plays around him so much. We've seen him set up so many opportunities, just like with his double kill right here, but just the pressure it is that he's able to apply with the rest of his team. In contrast to Rubu, he's really, really leading the aggression. He sort of plays like you would expect an off-tank player to play on a point presence, which is what makes him so dominant.
The slow pace that Na'Vi tend to set a lot of the time, which is also kind of, I think, why they settled into that triple DPS for a little bit. Being able to kind of have that slow pace that you can go quickly, immediately, on a dime turn to that is really good, and that's kind of what Lazy's biggest strength is. And also the fact that his team kind of forced him to play solo tank for quite a bit of time, and that's not easy, depending on who you get. Barrick, a little bit easier than Inara, but I mean, I think he's kind of run the gambit with it by now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Of course, that Bright Marsh game, that clip you just saw, was the one where he went completely undying on that Barrick. Literally, I don't remember what it was. I remember it was a double-digit kills, and he hadn't died that entire game. But that shows the prominence and the power that Lazy has. When you give him some of these comfort champions it is that he's on, when you give him the Barrick, when you give him the Inara, he has that power and that potential. You brought up a really good point, too. The solo tank was really, really important. Like, the fact that he can pull that off with the rest of his team and them being able to pull off some of these wins, that's really important to be able to do and extremely hard as a frontliner.
I do expect Na'Vi to pull that out a little bit more coming into this week, now that they've had more time with Ninu, now that he has the jersey. I mean, that means that the synergy's there, right?
Really
so I'd expect them to kind of be shifting back into that. They definitely have a good seed confirmed going into HRX, so try out some different drafts, some things we would normally see from them. They've always been a team that kind of had that pocket strat. I mean, we've seen some Moji Jaguar Falls from them, interesting things like that. And I want to see what they bring with the changes that came out recently.
Yeah, I mean, like, once again, we had talked about it like very, very briefly, but we had talked about like the Torvald nerfs. Probably won't see him as much in general coming into this matchup. Doesn't mean that people won't bring him out, but he's been definitely changed enough to where we probably won't see him as prioritized in terms of bans. Same thing for Tyra, same thing for, a few other characters it is that opted to be changed during this Pirate's Treasure nerf. But I mean, once again, I'm excited. I mean, Na'Vi has been bringing out the triple DPS a lot, so I'm really excited to see what sort of compositions. We've given them a little bit of a break, of course. They had like a little bit of a week to prepare. So I'm excited to see what they're going to bring out today that's going to set them apart from the rest of the teams.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the patch, I think the biggest winners from the changes they had were definitely, to me, Dredge, Koga, Drogos. I think we're only going to see Drogos a little bit more. Dredge, Koga probably not going to be played. And I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see Dredge. I correct me if I'm wrong. This is more towards chat because I'm not sure if you know, because I'm not even sure. I think Na'Vi were the team that ran Dredge on Frog Isle with Hurl.
I think
as like a backline sniper, and if they pull something like that out, it could be kind of interesting. I mean, now the knockback on that ultimate being able to be used on that map, don't know if we're going to end up there yet, but still, it kind of shows how willing they are to flex around and do a variety of different things. That's something that, if my teammates suggested that in draft, I'd be like, yeah, all right, cool. All right, no, what do you really want?
Good job,
now?
guy. Yeah.
Well, I guess that is very funny. I agree, but please pick an actual champion now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in it too, and you brought up the point of like Koga as well. I mean, you talked a little bit about how Dredge does have that knockback now. Does I believe 1,400 damage now. It can knock people away from the point, or just give that a little bit more of that aerial denial. The area denial. It is also a lot faster. But same thing for Koga, which is interesting, is that I believe he's
at
more
the end of his ultimate.
Yeah, exactly. He's a little bit more immune towards the end of his ult, right?
So he can be a little bit more aggressive with it. And also, Dredge ult also always did knockback.
Right.
It just killed you. Like,
good
you didn't know
Yeah.
because you weren't going to survive it anyway. So we'll see what we can get depending on where we end up playing.
Yeah, I agree with that. We're going to take a look at the map bans to see what we have going on first. Of course, we have Timbermill and Bright Marsh as a result of the first two bans for Na'Vi and Team Envy, and Ice Mines and Frozen Guard. Very, very interesting. I like we see it more often, but I do like the Ice Mines ban. I do like it coming in.
It's a very different kind of map, so it kind of makes sense to ban it if you don't want to go there. We're going to be going to Jaguar Falls, though. Kind of standard with Bright gone. This is kind of the default starter, I would say. I think this Jaguar, Serpent Beach, and Bright Marsh, to me, are like the three standard maps that you're always going to start a set on if teams aren't wanting to play too risky.
Right, exactly. I mean, we see the first two bans coming out for Na'Vi and Envy. Of course, we have the Willow gone. The Atlas is gone as well. Once again, both these teams are really going to try and consider what it is they're going to try and go for here. But once again, out of curiosity, what type of characters can we expect to see? I mean, like we've talked about it before. Jag is pretty versatile. We've seen Dredge, we've seen Moji, never seen really Koga as much, but the thing is that a lot of these characters can be drafted because of how small Jack is as a map. Knowing these two teams, what can we really expect to see?
I don't know if they're going to pull out anything too crazy to start the set, maybe as the games go on. Jaguar Falls, yeah, you're right, it is kind of flexible, but looking at these bans, I wouldn't say we're going to see anything too surprising.
Right.
I think, if anything, being able to ban a DPS will maybe force a little bit more blaster flexibility. We've already been seeing, at least in the minor league, a little bit of Bomb King, a little bit more Drogos on some maps you wouldn't normally see them. So I would expect Envy to go a little bit deeper into their blaster pool, so Random Noob could have something to play. I definitely expect to see a lot more BK and Drogos, I think, from them today.
Well, Barrack being locked in first on Envy's side. Ash being hover, but she's more than likely going to end up being pick Barrack. Ash very strong combo. And Cassie being locked in first. Now, I actually like that a lot because Rock Monkey can play Cassie extremely well. And I wonder, I mean, can you think that Na'Vi would have picked Cassie to try and deny him that access to that character, or are they just picking it because they know what Envy might want to try and go for?
She's just really, really flexible.
Right,
I think it's just a really safe first pick, being able to do that big game tank burn or the impulse kind of counter flank. Right. Really strong on this map, and also the double roll from Somersault, even after the nerf. I mean, it's still up enough where you can be a little bit aggressive with her, a little bit more so than you are with the other backlines. You know, Leon and Shaolin definitely able to get away with a little bit more. So very safe, flexible pick, especially considering the other strongest DPS, I would say, being Willow, is banned, so they get the priority on that. And there's enough tanks left open where they're not too concerned about what they're going to get.
Right, exactly. Na'Vi opening it up with the Anara. Of course, you expect Lazy on that. Of course, you see the Penguin for Phoenix. Little monkey for Rock Monkey right there.
I didn't notice the Penguin cut, so you just said the Penguin while the camera was on the monkey. I was like, dude.
I mean, Kreza, can you not tell us a Penguin?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm thinking.
No, it's all right. Geno's being locked in on Navi's side. That's going to be, I believe, their fourth or fifth pick right there. Envy opting to go for the Pip and the Furia and the Leon. I was actually about to mention, I was like, we don't really see them pick Pip at all. So, I mean, they switch that over to a Furia. Makes a lot more sense. Clearly, they want the aggression Leon to be able to counteract some of that long-range poke if they have it.
I mean, Torvald Leon was kind of a premier combo, right? You pocket your Leon when she goes in. Inflamed Leon is going to do the same thing. A little bit more of a cooldown, but it's still going to do the work that it needs to. So definitely a good aggressive comp by them with the Ashe and the Barrack able to poke down as well. Na'Vi are going to pull out the Moji here. So again, just really good at controlling these little close rooms, because her range isn't great, but she has really good potential to dash, get away. There's actually a little trick you can do where you can bunny hop when your scamper ends and maintain your speed. It's really hard, but I feel like if any team would have had a player practice that and get used to it, it could be Na'Vi.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I'm liking the Moji. I'm liking the Fernando, too. Of course, since Khan was banned out, that means that he's off the table, so they opt to go for the Fernando as one of the only really remaining off-tanks that they have since Barrack Ashe is on Envy's side. Eevee, potential last pick here. I'm expecting it. Once again, now, this is going to sound really biased, but what can we expect from this Moji? I'm expecting that she's going to be able to hold those flanks a lot more strongly than some other characters because of the amount of damage she can do. She's very sneaky with that.
Yeah, and the characters, other than Leon, the size of the hitbox doesn't really matter as much for Moji, so definitely an alright draft for her to play into. I think the biggest thing about the Moji here is countering the assert dominance.
Right, exactly.
No, it's the only hard counter of, like, kill the Ashe during it. I mean, overpower, yes, but I think it's a little easier to avoid than a snack time, because Moji can just hit you with the snack time and just magic barrier walk through your feet, your flag. Literally nothing you can do to deal with it other than body block the Moji. So good potential counterplay by Na'Vi. I think they have a pretty strong DPS line. I don't know how I feel about this Eevee, though. I think it might struggle. Would you have went
Maeve instead?
I might have gone like a BK or something that can just control these close rooms and maybe try to play that fight a little bit harder. Poppy Bomb for some displacement. I think the Eevee might have a rough time into this Cassie and Moji.
Yeah, I mean, I can completely understand that. I'm liking Navi's side, but I don't have to explain why that's the case. Na'Vi, Envy, both teams are locked in completely. This is going to be it, guys. Game 1 versus these two Titans. Casters, I'm ready for some awesome gameplay.
And so are we down here in the booth. Dolson and Gormize are calling game number 1. A top 4 matchup here, Gormizer. And this is the last time we're going to see these two teams going toe-to-toe. It's been an entire year of World Championship rematch, back and forth. And this is the last time we'll see these two go up against one another in the PPL prior to HRX. Should be some fun. Moji, notably, for Na'Vi. Phoenix got a little warm-up on Moji yesterday, as we saw in King of the Ring. Not going to be him, most likely, playing Moji this time around. Should be some fun, though.
If he was, then Na'Vi are throwing everything out of the window for either a joke or Phoenix is really feeling himself. One of the two. But this is actually one of the more interesting matchups for me because it's 2-1 right now. If you count Worlds, technically it's 2-2, you know, with Envy being able to win it. But for the most part this year, Navi's kind of been slightly ahead of the curve.
Yep.
And so Envy are looking to try and maybe tie that up before they go any further. Last time they'll meet this split. And yeah, you get Mutu bringing out the Moji. And we've seen him. In fact, I think Na'Vi was the first team to do it. One of the only teams that has successfully played Moji on Jag Falls in the PPL.
I feel like if we do see Moji, it's only ever on Jaguar Falls.
Yeah.
So, you know, as surprising as it is, the played rate was so low, it actually said 0%. 50% win rate, though, so that's got to be 2 picks, 1 win, 1 loss would be my guess on that one. Unfortunately, Moji, first blood in this game, and that's not a kill, that's a death. Phoenix on the Fernando. I imagine we'll see a little bit more of him as the frontline meta starting to change. Picks and bans as well. It's good control there from Toki to start to lock down this first mid, 36% for Envy, and they have Natus Vincere very grouped off to the side. A little bit of added support pressure allows Mutu to get back in, nearly behind the shield. For Toki, didn't work out. That's both frontliners down as Natus Vincere regained control of the point.
So the best thing about this, and specifically for Phoenix, is just now how reliable the shield is going to be up and how often it's going to be able to come through. Like, Fernando wasn't necessarily in a bad spot, it's just other people did everything he could do better. Now with an Inflame, though, you're going to have Tolkien running in. He's going to be able to do a little bit more damage, but he got too much coming in, and Rock Monkey's going to have to play the side. They need to get aggressive.
Here's your first round of Ultimate. Starts off with an Inflame, but Envy don't get anything through time and space. Goes just wide.
Oh,
Rubu, inch perfect on the shoulder bash. Now he's trying to win over Lazy. Overtime begins for Natus Vincere. Random Noob trading out 1-for-1. But the kills all for Natus Vincere. Great seismic crash. Double kill from Spunky. Point number 1 of this big set goes to Na'Vi.
After kind of tripping on itself earlier, I mean, it's still 1-2-1 right now, but Mutu's kind of found the flow, I guess, of Moji. But you got a 2-0-4 Phoenix and a 3-0-2 Genos here. And that's the transition we're looking at right now.
Right.
What your support can do is determining these games more than anything. And Furia is a little more aggressive, at least from what we've seen, but Mr. Hayes, it almost feels like he's getting caught out.
This is aggressive on both sides. He did get a little bit caught out there. Furia, the first blood. As Envy have to peel themselves backward. Payload just stalled out for a moment, but Natus Vincere win that mid-fight, mid-push fight rather, pretty convincingly. Immortal was used, as well as Seismic Crash at the end of the last mid. Scout, only somewhat less impactful ultimate. Snack time ready to go for Mutu, called Evil Mojo Jr. If you want to look at it that way. There's the blink in from Random Noob. Some good chunk damage, but Moji so self-sustaining. She's going to be able to cap herself right back off.
It's just going to be able to kind of hang out over here. A lot of pressure onto Envy to deal with Fernando. And this is actually one of those moments. Khan is going to skyrocket in priority because he can help counter that shield. And unfortunately for Mutu, again, bites off more than his dragons can chew in that case. And if you just kind of smack them back down. But they've broken the hard part. They've already gotten into the base here.
Right.
And so one regroup, and one false step really from Envy here could still result in the push.
Yeah, I think that's a big defense. They weren't able to really find all that much of anything, losing most of the fights up until this point. Maybe you trade out a kill or two, but none of the overall macro game has really been going for Envy. Down 1-0. Looking to tie themselves up in this game on the defense. Mutu on this Moji. Hit or miss throughout this one. Snack time still ready. There's your Seismic Crash on the other end of the wall. Does lock up Rubu. Dome Shield answered back by Toki. That's a great through time and space for Spunky. Snipe out the frontliner, and now it's down to Toki to stay alive behind this pillar, but there's too much aggression. That's a great Void Grip. And now respawning. 0 seconds left on Rubu, but he's going to have to shoulder bash his way right into range. I'm not sure he's going to be able to do it. That's a big execute from Mutu. And a great re-engage from Na'Vi gets them point number 2.
Now the thing about Moji that comes down to it is she does a lot of damage. And when you're looking at someone like Evie Leon, like Leon's going to be a little tankier. A couple more shots that are going to be able to take. Versus, I mean, this Evie's going to just drop. I mean, 1,800 health is not a lot to play with. And if Random Noob gets caught out in similar fashions to this, it's just not going to be enough to keep him going. And Spunky kind of, I want to say, alleviating the pressure from his team, finding a couple kills there, but really distracting and controlling the movement of that Eevee.
Sure.
It's making such a huge difference for them. 4-0 and 11, him not dying. Normally, you don't have to look too much at the healing numbers from a Genos. It's more the Luminary uptime that comes from that, but you have to imagine his healing is just as good right now.
At a 15 streak, you know, the more uptime, the more healing. Spunky's got that in spades. 33% on the through time and space. Could be a great execute. Not the most impactful ultimate because it's so dependent on, well, whether or not you find some kills. Here's an early backline flank from Envy. They do have Phoenix a little bit caught out. He's going to get some good healing thanks to Spunky. Lazy finds the first blood in this re-engage onto Random Noob, and Toki falls as well. Complete mid control over to Natus Vincere, and Envy are in their backline. Envy are in Natus Vincere's base, and they're totally flipped around. You're going to have to be careful if you're Na'Vi. The respawns are going to be coming back behind you as you're fighting back towards your own base. Well, they seem privy to it and capture point number 3 on the back end of just a couple kills.
Oh, that's going to be a really, really good enlightenment, but really good body blocks from Na'Vi.
Yep.
Mutu does go down, but at least they block the shot to keep both or one of their DPS alive. And this is the other thing about Fernando that's coming through, and Phoenix is kind of showcasing really well. He still does a pretty good chunk of damage for a tank. I mean, Fireball hits pretty hard. His Flame Lance on its own already goes through. You can see Towering Barrier reducing the cooldown of his shield by 4 seconds here. Is where he's putting a lot, but Incinerate right next to it. A card that used to be run a little higher with Scorch, with the way it used to be as you came through. But, I mean, a good loadout to get you good damage, good shielding, and they don't have anything to take it down fast enough.
I'm just going to shield and Fireball over and over and over again. That's what Phoenix is looking to do. Was on a streak just prior to the death right there. Same sort of fight back here from Envy. They're able to win a defensive stand a little bit further away, luckily for them. So plenty of chance to grab themselves a defensive point here as Rubu looks to poke away at Ninu. Shoulder bash, playing it right on the edge there. One more kinetic burst, good positioning from Ninu. Unfortunately, Rock Monkey comes to the aid of the Ashe, gets a kill there. It's a good defensive stand, especially this far out. Envy are happy just to trade out, much less win the engagement entirely.
I mean, good slash lines all down the board for Na'Vi. Very good control from them as well. But I like the way Envy are playing this one. They won that fight, but they kind of recognize that maybe not as aggressive as they did last time, and also more around the payload. Last time, this payload was able to kind of break base with a very, very successful post-round or post-mid fight from Na'Vi. And getting from, you know, dirt to stone here is probably the most difficult thing on Jag Falls, this archway that Ninu's standing in. So being able to break that now, it's going to give you time, but 30 seconds, it's easily kind of deterred around this last corner.
Take note of Random Noob way in the back line of Natus Vincere here as the Inflame for Envy back up. Mutu with the first blood. Rubu trying to control this side space here, 1-for-1. Toki from Mutu. All trades in advantage of Envy if they're even, because you get those respawns a little bit closer. 10 seconds left. Plenty of time for Natus Vincere. You don't have to blow a lot to try to force this one through. You just need to win one more mid. They might get a contest in. They do have a Nara hanging out on the point. Lazy drops the Seismic Crash, gets the kill onto Rock Monkey. So much of that backline damage now missing, but Mr. Hayes and Random Noob are trying to keep Envy in this game. He's been right behind Na'Vi this entire time. Some good shots. Might just seal up this defense and get Envy their first point in the game.
That was, like, textbook. If you ever want to know how to beat Cassie as an Eevee, that was it. That replay should live forever in your mind, because there's so many moments where if Random Noob doesn't blink right, maybe doesn't soar correctly, he's dead. He's going to die there. He's going to take too much damage. Cassie dishes it out really fast and really simply to your health bar. And again, you don't have much to work with. 1800 is a very slippery slope down to the bottom. And this round was a different game for him. It didn't come online around the mid-fight where I think they wanted it, but Envy kind of being able to see Random Noob come into the realization of Eevee, kind of get into the flow, it's kept him alive, kept him head above water.
Well, he's on a 7 streak at 8-6-2, so he has 10 affected kills, and 7 of them have come at 6 deaths. So you're right, he's really started to swing back through this. You know, whether he was 1-6-2 or whatever it may have been prior to this. Slash line looking a lot better for Mr. Paul. That was a good shot from Spunky. That offensive presence from your healer can only be a good thing. As Envy looked to try to mitigate something, they were able to get 23% thanks to the fast cap. There's your assert dominance from Rubu. Stuns up Mutu. Magic Barrier is going to seal off a little bit of that extra defense. Great wall. That timing for Lazy was pretty perfect there. Not sure he would have died, but definitely prevented Rubu from moving forward and staying aggressive. Pretty big engagement on the right-hand side. Inflame from Envy pops out here. Answered back by Snack Time. Mutu unable to find the kill. Rock Monkey with some good shots. Cleans up. On the opposite side, there's Spunky with a great through time and space double kill, and it looks like Na'Vi are just going to run away with this game.
Just being able to take it. I mean, clean control, random noob going to get caught out in the ice block. Ice Storm's there, but you know, there's only so much you can do to try and fight back.
Yeah.
The two things that stand out to me most about this game, I mean, Rock Monkey, random noob, playing pretty well. A surprisingly quiet game from Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Not something I say too much about supports, but I've kind of gotten used to seeing like a 9-2 and 20 slash line when Mr. Hayes is playing Furia. Didn't quite hit the same mark. And Tulki, kind of off the mark. I mean, there were several times, engagements, fights, they started with him dying. I mean, either isolated by Mutu, isolated by Lazy being able to find a good seismic crash, but someone was tracking him down, and Derek just couldn't be there for the first half of the fight.
We almost can't say enough about the support presence that Spunky was able to bring on the flip side. I mean, you look at not only Hayes having a quiet game,
Spunky
but Spunky having a big
Pull out the
game.
megaphone.
Yeah, big megaphone, double through time and space to seal up that one. Na'Vi strike first, go up 1-0 over Envy. See if they can tie it up right after this break.
iNap, powering the control room for the Paladins Premier League.
Baby, one day I'm hoping that you will be mine. Turn my life around. Wow. So where do we go when everything feels like it just stays the same? Where do we go from here when everything is said and done? Oh, this is what we do. Get down to the beat, y'all. We get down to the beat, y'all. Let's get down. We get down to the beat, y'all. Yeah, it's like I'm stuck in this mystic cloud, waiting for something I can't get out. And I don't
Welcome back, guys, to the PPL. Of course, a very, very quick game for the Natus Vincere team. Na'Vi did an extremely good job on Jaguar Falls, and not only that, they were able to take game one over Envy. Envy tried to fight back, wasn't really in their favor this go-around, but we still got more games to go, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, some of the stat lines, I think, were in Envy's favor. Just the way that Na'Vi played around the draft, I felt like was really good.
Yeah.
That Eevee did some decent pressure, but I think they found it really hard to break through the DPS line that Na'Vi had.
Right, yeah. I mean, I agree with that entirely. Of course, Team Envy on their side, I mean, they struggled a little bit. Rock Monkey did a lot of damage. He did the most of the game, and you mentioned that 90,000 damage before, and the power was just unstoppable on him. Unfortunately, they weren't able to close out game one, but Na'Vi's team comp, interesting, because we see two characters that we don't typically see unless there's no other option, and what I mean by that specifically is the Fernando and the Moji. Don't necessarily expect the Moji either.
Yeah, and they're playing together pretty well. I mean, Moji, the flanker, kind of pushed those side angles. Nando, a lot of sustain, actually, with the Formidable, and with the new shield card, Towering Barrier, kind of getting buffed or changed in a way that lets him have a lot more higher shield uptime, which also makes Last Stand better. Little healing over time, it really is good for them. And looking at these highest kills in the game, not only just tied between Random Noob and Mutu, it's tied with Spunky.
Yeah.
Spunky on Genos.
Yeah, 8, 3, and 19. On top of that, man, I mean, we saw it. We've seen it in the past. We've seen how good Spunky can be on the Genos, but every single time I see it, man, it never ceases to amaze me. 8, 3, and 19 with an amazing double through time and space as well. I mean, he's so... I honestly don't even know what to say in reference to his gameplay because it's always so impressive. He just knows what to do.
The best Genos is it Geni?
Wait,
is it Genos or Geni? We can talk about that later. But
yeah,
the best Geni are definitely the ones who know how to use the Star Splitter to find the kills. A lot of the time, Genoses will just be too far away to the point where they can't really help the rest of the team a lot of the time. But Spunky And any of these Genos players that know exactly where to stand, that's out of the fight but close enough to still do something, will always find these chip damage, these kills with that. And that's really, I think, the biggest difference between a good Genos and a great Genos.
Right, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we see it with Spunky, we see it with Cuss, we see it with a few other players, of course, with Vex. I mean, Vex normally on the Furia, but of course we've seen his Genos play too, Mitao, all of these supports. They know where to use their through time and spaces, and whether it gets the kill or not, it opens up the door for so many possibilities. I've seen so many clutch through times and spaces, and it's just, I mean, it's so amazing. Like I've already said that once before, but I just want to stress how cool that is, because you don't see play like that coming out from a support.
Hitting Genos ults just basically comes down to communicating cooldowns. A lot of the time you have to know when they used a dash, because that really kind of just destroys their chance to get away. I mean, that last super game that Mitao had that you just brought up, that was basically just every single time Nando would use dash, he would ult, and it would connect every single time because there's really no out at that point. But Envy, even after that loss, it seemed like they're in high spirits, so hopefully for their sake, we're going to an area, a map that maybe they might be comfortable with. We'll have to see where that does end up being. But it was a tough loss for them. But I feel like it was a little bit on the back of the draft, and that's something that you can recover quickly from. Because if you blame yourself, like, oh man, we played terrible, we lost that game, I feel like that's way harder to recover from, other than, oh well, we clicked one bad champion, all right, reset. You know, I feel like it's a lot much of an easier mental, I guess, just it's easier to recover from by a long shot.
Right, exactly. I mean, once again, it's only game one, so they'll have plenty of time to be able to rectify that. But I want to talk a little bit, just a tiny bit, of course, about the Moji again that Mutu opted to go for.
Of course.
It's the thing that, well, yeah, of course, yeah.
No,
no problem. But it's the it's just the fact that not only was the Moji pick, but we noticed that she wasn't as high in the damage numbers, but he was definitely fragging out. I mean, he was getting he was getting the kills that he needed to. So how was he playing that in a way that could actually, even though he wasn't at top of the damage charts like Rock Monkey was, what was he doing that was still so effective that allowed Navi to be able to take that?
The burst damage from Moji kind of helped him with the cleanups and well, we'll just put him down here in Wolfer. Sorry, he's gone now.
Rest in pieces.
But just playing in those close areas, kind of controlling them, not letting them fight him. Yes, he died when he got pressured really hard, but just having the threat of the Moji scampering in, chasing you down, and getting that quick burst damage when you think you're going to be able to live, that's really what helped him, I think, find all those finishes. And just playing in those areas that are always in his comfort zone.
Right.
You know, like, you don't want to force yourself into that big open field, because then you're just doing 100, 100, 100 with the familiar spit from a mile away, and that's never going to find the kills that you need. Even after that, I guess, what was the buff? It was like 0.1 shot DPS faster. Still not going to find any kills. So I think he played his positioning really well, forcing them into uncomfortable fights.
Well, here we are in game 2. Frog Isle already up on the board in this case. I mean, I'm interested to see what's in the case here, because the reason why I was sort of trying to grasp at what it was I was trying to get at, because I was trying to find the way to approach the sniper matchup, because we see snipers picked on this map, but Strix went through a little bit of okay, well, never mind. Doesn't even matter. He's already banned.
Yeah,
so my point is moot. Never mind.
Even with the nerfs, I mean, he's still a really good counter sniper. Not having to charge up really lets him kind of play a little bit more aggressive than Kinessa. Kinessa having to, yes, Kinessa has the option to go in and get out really quickly with the teleport, but just the fact that he gets all that damage out so much faster is kind of why players tend to prefer Strix. Navi banning him, now we know for sure one of the power tanks is going to get through. 100%. And if I were Navi, I wouldn't ban either. Because if you ban one, then Envy get the other, and you're not getting anything out of it. So I would expect Navi could even ban Kinessa here, and then just make Envy pick Makoa or Atlas, and then Navi will get the other and their own adaptation. But they go for Khan instead, so if anything, now what they can do is Envy will pick Atlas, now Navi will get Makoa, and they'll get potentially another off tank if they want to play really aggressive, and Envy will have to play the Nara Atlas or Baron
We're
Atlas.
only getting started.
Atlas, you already mentioned it before. Of course, you called it, Kresnik. Atlas is the first character that Envy want to lock in here, and of course, they're going to opt to go for the Barrack and the Makoa in this case. I already like the comp as it is already. Barrack, Makoa, strong point presence, strong off tank. And when paired together, when they're pushing, you definitely feel the pressure for the both of these characters.
This is actually going to be tough for Envy, because now that they're going to have to play a Nara Atlas if they want a point tank, and neither of those tanks really are good at crossing space. If Navi end up with like a Victor or something, they're going to be playing at a disadvantage a lot of the time. Kinessa will definitely be one of the answers if the Victor or whatever backline Na'Vi ends up picking ends up being just a little bit out of position. It's going to be a lot easier for them to punish them, but neither of those tanks are really going to be able to go into them and force the issue.
Right, exactly. I mean, the Kinessa is picked, though, on Envy's side. They are going to opt to go for at least one of the snipers that are pretty prominent on this map. And Nara is also being hovered. Of course, that would be a very, very strong counter, or not counter, but would be an even duel, at least on the point, against the Barrack in this case on Navi's side already. They're taking a little bit of time to think about it. They opt to switch for it. They will indeed go for the Kinessa
executioner.
Yeah, and that's if they do lock that EV. I mean, there's days did definitely pick the Kinessa for Rock Monkey, and EV will be the pick for Envy. So even after the last game, I mean, Random didn't play badly. They're still gonna. This is definitely a better map for it for sure. But I think I like that they kind of shifted away from the Inara, because now they can see what the rest of what Navi's going to do and then kind of adapt from there. Now they're not stuck with two very stagnant tanks. If Navi have a comp that's very opened up to more aggressive tanks, they could go with, I don't know if I'd go Atlas Ruckus, but they could end up taking that Fernando, who has the potential, I think, to get a little bit more aggressive than the Inara would be able to get away with.
Okay, so the Ying is being hovered, as well as the Inara on the side of Envy. Now, in this case, I mean, they have the sustainability, they have the power to be able to do what they need to. They can stay in the fight for a lot longer too than Na'Vi can, at least in theory, with the Yingo, with the Illusory Rift. Of course, you have the Makoa with his ultimate being able to rejuvenate all of his health, just bring it all back, and also have more than that. But also just the Barrack opportunity as well, being able to stay on that point with Dome Shield. Genos Mave, of course, I don't remember if it was Navi or whoever it was that brought this up before, but they were like, they really like the Genos because you can pretty much win any duel with Luminary in a one-on-one scenario.
I mean, if you force 1v1s, it's really good. This map is too close to let 1v1s happen, though. The mid-fight is so compact, and it's open on top of that. This would be, on any other map, I would say maybe Grok would be something they could play here because of the Inara Ying Atlas. Not really the best into him. Very, very free shock pulses, but I don't know if I would do it on this map, and Willow actually will be the last pick. A character that's going to be, I expect to see banned a lot today. Does end up being the last one we see locked in, and Willow is really, really great into Inara. I mean, and also partially Ying, just being able to apply that damage and deny that pocket killing, which I think is one of Ying's biggest strengths. Yeah,
I mean, that's going to be really, really hard for this Inara to deal with. I mean, in this case at least, I mean, having the Willow, you don't ban her out. Of course, you're going to have that problem that Nara's going to have with staying on the point, trying to be able to actually use that pressure it is that she has. Her sustainability not going to be as prevalent in this case, especially when you have the Willow to be able to counteract that.
Biggest problem for the Willow is definitely going to be the Kinessa, though. I mean, those Fae flights are going to be very tough to get off. With a player like Rock Monkey just looking for you to try to get you out of the sky, anti-aircraft gun, it's going to be tough to pull off. Going to have to play, I think, a little bit more defensive with it. Mostly, I think, going to be used for burning down the point on these longer mid-fights, because I don't expect either team to be able to go too aggressive.
Well, here we go. Game 2. Take us right into it, guys.
Appreciate it, fellas. Gore, we finally get a little bit of Frog Isle. Not banned out. Does end up getting picked here. Only one sniper, though. And welcome to the new meta. You get some Makoa, you get some Atlas. The way these picks and bans are going today, these are all just new data points for us, and it's going to be so much fun to watch this one play out. Only sniper in the game goes over to Rock Monkey.
And just slicing it from the top down of what you were saying. I mean, this is a map normally Na'Vi do ban out in their set, so kind of weird to see them let it through.
Yeah.
But this fight is going to come down to how safe is Rock Monkey. You know, we've been talking about football, so it's a perfect analogy. Is he going to be in the pocket, essentially? Who's going to protect him? But, you know, you have Atlas and Makoa with Maeve and Eevee kind of fighting over on ramp, fighting for that side around statue. And if Na'Vi win, that Maeve is going to be able to get back here and cause some trouble. Otherwise, this is going to be the name of the game. Sit back and don't let Willow rise.
Watch out for Maeve and Willow throughout this game. Rock Monkey playing just a touch further back, not right up on that wall, but up on the tree stand just behind it. Moving forward now, getting very poked out is Phoenix on this Makoa. Rubu feeling nice and safe. First blood, Toki on the lazy. Front line, killing off another front line here. 66% for Team Envy if they're able to force Natus Vincere back. Just missing. That setback here is Rubu, but now you're at a 4v5. You have to maybe shell spin your way in there. Ninu able to answer back. Not having Tolki is pretty important here for Envy, but they're at 93% Gore. They can just back off.
I mean, being able to give up that room, normally these teams, they are in that mindset of, you know what, all right, we're going to back away. And they get rid of Lazy in the process. They don't even need Tolki here as long as they can keep the zone out. They lock down Phoenix, no problem.
Well, the answer, or the question you posed was, how safe can Rock Monkey be? And I think he was very, very
Yeah.
safe and relatively unworried throughout the entire start of that one. 5 streak already for Mr. Hayes on the Ying. Let's look at damage. See what Rock Monkey was able to do throughout that first bit. Not the most, definitely not the least, though. A lot of that falling onto Random Noob and Mr. Rubu himself on the Atlas.
It's this combination, though, that they're going to have. I could see this being a high kill potential game, but at the same time, again, these teams know when to back off. They're kind of very cognizant of that. And so you'll see these moments where maybe Rock Monkey hits a shot, and that's going to determine the fight just because, okay, well, now Ninu's not going to
Absolutely.
shoot. He's not going to Fade Flight. He's not going to do anything. And with Fade Flight available, I mean, that's always an option, especially to try and force a defense to come through. But you would kind of like to have that charged up
Right.
for the mid-fight. Either way, he's going to have to figure out, and Navi as a whole are going to have to figure out how can he do it without immediately getting headshot by Kinessa once he goes up into the air, because it's an open field up there.
That's always the question, isn't it? And it's a hard one to figure out. Mutu drops the veil over Frog Isle. No kills just yet stemming from that. Phoenix does end up grabbing Random Noob here. And Mutu, I mean, we bring up the Willow, Mutu on the Mave as well. It's kind of either of them are going to have to try to get aggressive on Rock Monkey at some point.
And here's the hard part. You've got some really good shields if you're Navi to be able to control things, right? They have the stasis wall that
There you
will
go.
just stop your shots.
Yep.
And it's admittedly better than a shield. It's going to have that timer, so maybe Navi can work around it. But at the end of the day, you're going to see Envy hitting more just damaging shots and being able to kind of blow up the shields, force you into weird positions than you're going to see out of Navi. They might not have as much success on pushes consistently, but mid-fights, they have almost the perfect formula to keep them safe.
And look at this for Random Noob. I mean, not a true backdoor. Everyone from Natus Vincere was respawning, but kept that payload moving forward instead of just now getting it inching ever closer. It was starting to move towards the end. I think once he realized Envy were going to win that fight, he wanted to get as much progress as he could. 5 seconds left. Overtime likely to begin as a contest on the payload starts. He knows Ninu's very low health around that corner. Phoenix, though, is the immediate target. There's your shot. Phoenix and Ninu go down. They're able to trade back. They risk the dome shield to try to capture up this defense, but Random Noob's able just to walk around the backside and plug some shots in behind Lazy. Spunky's gonna have to throw himself onto the pile, but he's not gonna stay alive very long, and this one's gonna roll through. Big double kill from Random Noob, and Rock Monkey staying safe. Put Envy up 2-0.
And that timer just working out, it was just in their favor. Like, if Phoenix respawns 2 seconds earlier, he's down there all of a sudden, and it's a different fight. He's still going to be standing there. But at 1 and 5, the Makoa not doing too much. I mean, even at 1 and 2, it's, you know, Makoa Atlas kind of the hot flashiness because they're usually banned, at least up to this point. But this update showcasing that maybe it's not always up to them. Maybe it's something around them that kind of opens the door for them, because Rock Monkey's on a 10 streak, Random Noob's on an 8 streak, Mr. Hayes is on a 17 streak. No one's been able to shut down this Ying either.
Yeah, I mean, we brought up Hayes at the end of Jag Falls. Not that he had a bad game necessarily, but Spunky was adding just a little bit extra that helped push Natus Vincere forward, and now Mr. Hayes is doing so. On the opposite, you see Rock Monkey taking the mantle up high but further back than where Mr. Hayes is, maybe normally where you would see the Kinessa. Free and clear. I mean, you can tell he's staying in his scope that entire time, not too worried. Here's the Midnight. Mutu looking for the flank. He's going to be able to climb up there, but you have 3 members of Envy waiting back to try to find some shots on you. Traditionally, that's in Mutu's favor, but Rock Monkey, if you can plug away 1 or 2 of those shots, the Mave doesn't have enough health to stay alive. Meanwhile, on the point, the battle is raging on where Natus Vincere find themselves first blood. Finally, the aggression comes. Big plays from Ninu. Help get Natus Vincere, forcing Envy all the way back. They already have 70%. Double kill from the Mave seals this one up, and Natus Vincere grab themselves point number 1.
I mean, Mutu, with no kills, won that fight. Until, like, I mean, he got some kills towards the end of it, but
Right.
it was get aggressive, force Rock Monkey to feel uncomfortable, and then not only, like, I heard Headhunter get popped, I heard Ice Storm get popped, anything to lock him down, anything to kind of control this portion of the fight. Rock Monkey chases him down to try and get the kill, and it's just good mobility, kind of good awareness from Mutu, keeps him alive, and then he just hangs out. He recognizes, you're going to be uneasy, because if you don't look at me, that's when I come out. If you are looking at me, you're not shooting anyone on the objective.
And you could really tell when Natus Vincere knew they had won the kind of 2 versus 4 engagement on the point, because finally Phoenix rolls forward.
Yeah.
Everyone else starts to rejoin the fight back in Envy's base. Seal that one up. Now looking good on the push as well. Hasn't stopped moving. Here's your big fight. Great exile. Onto Ninu. Drops Willow off. Down to the ground. Looking to stay aggressive. Here is the Atlas. Mutu's going to get the healing clipped for Team Envy. Rubu, excuse me, already using his second chance, but does find the plug shot onto Ninu. Now Mutu has to pick up some slack, but he's not able to. He dies off as well. Some frontline damage being returned. That's a great hook onto Rock Monkey, and that's all they needed. They were able to kill, despite all the kills going back and forth, they killed off the front line, and nobody was left in range to contest.
And that just showcases some of the good nature of Frog Isle. And that is that, well, one, a push can happen kind of in the blink of an eye. You do not need anywhere near as much time on this map. It's a much more fast-paced style Paladins, I would argue, very aggressive, which I think is fitting for both of these teams because they can play it kind of both ways. They can get aggressive, and they can play a little more slow if they need to. But it also showcases that you can't slip up. I mean, it's kind of a slippery slope. Once you misstep 1 foot, all of a sudden you can't regain your balance.
Yep.
And all those streaks that were burning for Envy are now completely extinguished.
Yeah, Spunky found himself a double-digit streak in those last 2 points. Phoenix as well. Top of the damage charts is Ninu. Got him nice and jacketed up. Looking to keep that going. Rock Monkey very mitigated towards the end. Good. Casting the line there is Spunky just wide of Rock Monkey. His intended target. Random Noob into the ice block. Good shot from Rock. Cleans up Ninu. Now you got Maeve to worry about. Mutu playing with some of that mobility. One more shot will do it, but he's able to get Random Noob on his way out, even if he trades out, which he does. That's a big kill onto Noob.
Just being able to find this. Now the tank's getting aggressive. Lazy dropping the dome shield up at the top of ramp to zone them out. And Tolki, at this point, his mind is on one thing and one thing only, and that is I have to stop the capture rate. It's at 90%, and he is just getting slowed down, gripped up, CC'd. He can't touch.
Yeah, he's too slow. The wall didn't do him too many favors. Still a chance if Rubu wants to fully run forward. Did get an overtime touch from Random Noob. It's not going to matter. They're going to win the fight. Double kill from Lazy. Sniping on the barrack. Mr. Hazen Rock catching those. Exit stage left for Rubu. And Natus Vincere, after going down 2-0, bring this one to 1 more point.
I mean, being able to kind of figure it out, what they needed to do was, how do we get the Faith Lights off? How can we get Mutu back there? What do we have to do to make this an option? And it was, don't wait. Don't get Envy in position. Don't let them kind of figure out how they want to stand. Just jump past the tanks. Jump over them if you can and get to it. Cause Rock Monkey to stop looking maybe towards Lazy, which lets Lazy be free all of a sudden. Tolki has more trouble because of that, and it starts to crumble.
And that's a big difference maker. Rock Monkey has not had the same effect on this game as he did on that first mid-fight. Health bar's melting here for Envy. Hayes doing the best that he can, but unfortunately too much damage being returned. Lazy, huge game. Top damage on his team on the Inara. Now on the Barrack doing much the same. 10 streak for him, 21 for Spunky. This is a Na'Vi snowballing down towards the base of Envy. If you're Envy, you go up 2-0, you think you're on easy street, but Natus Vincere showing that you can't falter even for a moment. One last fight to maybe end this game.
I mean, a couple of good shots here, good control, and with Lazy going down, that means it's possible for Envy here, but they're taking a lot of damage from Mutu and a lot of damage from Ninu.
Yep, that's a big engagement there from Random Noob. If Mutu won that one, things get a little bit more dire. Realizing no front line, no bueno, Natus Vincere back off, wait for the respawns to come out of base. Dome Shield, Midnight, through time and space. If they really want to try to push this one in, they certainly have the ability to do so. Great hook there from Phoenix. Nearly killed off Random Noob. Didn't come to fruition. Here you go, first ultimate start to fly. Tolki drops Seismic Crash. Connects just on 1 or 2 as he backs off. Mutu, though, dives in, finds Random Noob, gets out alive. Maybe 10% health left on that one as Ninu looks to go over Tolki's wall, and now so much frontline presence gone for Team Envy as Natus Vincere continue to roll downhill. Dome Shield from Lazy might just seal this one up. It certainly does. And now up 2-0 over Team Envy. 2 very fast games.
And this is really weird to me, but in a game where Phoenix was playing Makoa, I don't care about him. Like, he played well. He definitely got better from first round to rounds 2 and 3 there. But Lazy, Spunky are kind of the stars of the show there. Mutu,
Agreed.
I think, opens up a lot of space that lets them be successful, but Lazy's aggression and the damage that he added
Yeah.
to the fight really helped them seal the deal in the last round. And Spunky's playing out of his mind right now. I mean, he's adding numbers to the fight that are tangible. I mean, even that last one, Tolkien goes down because he just reads, okay, seismic crash here, through time and space there.
Yep.
He's going to take 2,400. We're going to be able to walk away happy.
You could almost sense a shift in that game. Rock Monkey wasn't as comfortable as he was throughout the first 2
Yeah.
points. Navi figured out just the right amount of aggression to apply, and they grabbed themselves win number 2. Game 3 right after this.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the Paladins Premier League.
Like we're losing all track of time. I just got one thing on my mind. Baby, one day I'm hoping that you will be mine. Turn my life around. Wow. So where do we go when everything feels like it just stays the same? Where do we go from here when everything is said and done? Oh, this is what we do. We get down to the beat, y'all. We get down to the beat, y'all. Let's get down. We get down to the beat, y'all. Yeah, it's like I'm stuck in this mystic cloud, waiting for something I can't get out. And I don't even care. No.
Welcome back, guys, to the PPL. Of course, Natus Vincere not stopping at 1. They want 2, and therefore they were able to be granted it 2-0 already over Envy. Very, very well played by them. Of course, they got the characters it was that they wanted to get. They got the Makoa. Atlas was on Envy's side. And in retrospect, I feel like that may have been a little bit of a mistake from Envy to let him have that Makoa.
I mean, with how well Phoenix played, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I also think it was kind of on the back of how well Na'Vi played around the temporal divide, because a lot of the thing about Atlas Shield is you can't counter it. You have to just either wait or burst through it, and Na'Vi, I think, made the right decision in that situation almost every time.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. We are taking a look at the post-game stats here. 2,000 damage from Random Noob, 70k from Rock Monkey. Yeah, 70k from Rock Monkey. And Phoenix, the 74,000, of course, can never sleep on the Makoa damage. 86k from Lazy and 86k from Ninu.
Yeah, Lazy actually top damaging on that, which
Yeah.
I think makes sense for how the game was going in general. And I'm surprised that Random put up the numbers that he did, considering how hard he was being pressured by Phoenix. I mean, Phoenix was constantly hitting these hooks on him from medium range, predicting his wormholes and all that, and was doing really well at shutting him down, but just not enough, I think, from Envy to stop Na'Vi. Even after that first fight kind of going very cleanly in Envy's favor, you can tell, I think, the tanks kind of struggled as the game went on.
Right, yeah. I mean, you see it here on the slash lines, of course. 12-8 on Mutu, 4-8 on Nino. A little bit of a rougher game for the Willow, but of course, having that dead zone is really important. But Phoenix, we mentioned it once before. We mentioned it again. 12-5 and 12. Of course, him being in a good spot. This is the prediction on that wormhole. Yeah, this is the prediction on that blink, which was so cool. They didn't get the pick on the Eevee, but it was still the presence of mind to be able to do that and know when. He's just literally waiting around that corner, peeking up. He was able to get it.
Yeah, I mean, it forced cooldowns out, and that's important. Being able to hit those on Eevee, like, I've been in the room with players that have joined a 1v1 on Frog and just blinked back and forth against a Makoa just to practice that hook. And being able to do that and shut down an Eevee, especially at this level, is so important. And Phoenix, I think, did a great job of it. And just in general, at applying pressure, this is why Makoa gets banned and dealt with so much when it's in the hands of a player like Phoenix. I mean, it's almost unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that entirely. I mean, you mentioned it a little bit before about how, of course, you give them one of the tanks itself. You get rid of, like, you don't see a reason to ban out both of the power tanks because they get one, you leave the other one open, obviously. It's a power struggle at that point.
Yeah.
So they opted to go for the Atlas on Envy's side. Makoa was just taken on Phoenix's side, of course, on Navi's side. And, of course, it proved to be a lot better in this case. But we're going to see where we're going for map 3 in this case, what they have in store for us here. That's going to be, oh, boy.
Well, Navi's taken us to Fish Market.
Yeah.
Somewhere that they've shown to be pretty strong against Na'Vi, and we'll have to see if Na'Vi have kind of reviewed their games against them on Fish and kind of figured something out, because Envy seem to really have this map on lock. Rubu's Ruckus on this map is very, very, very powerful, knowing exactly where to zone, and Ruckus in general on this map is fantastic because of the dismount potential. I mean, there's an angles from point or very close to the point, that's your spawn. If you get dismounted in your spawn trying to leave on this map, you are not touched. There's no way. The map's just too big.
Right, exactly. I mean, they already get rid of the con on Envy's side, and I do agree with that. Map is a little bit too big. It's going to be a lot harder for them to be able to do what they typically, the strategies won't always work here. And of course, we're getting towards the end around that big fishbowl where everyone's just firing down into that main point. It's going to be a lot harder to be able to try and control those fights since everything's in such a big radius. Ash goes down on Navi's side, and really Envy's trying to consider who they want to ban here first. Now, can you see the power tanks getting through again?
I could, because honestly, they're not as good on this map. I wouldn't be surprised. Envy banning Atlas to force Navi to ban Makoa more than likely, but I wouldn't be shocked if Navi just let it through. If Envy first picked Makoa, they could end up with a Cassie and then maybe a mobile flanker, and suddenly they have a really big monopoly on the strong DPSs. If they choose to go that way, DPS is always very strong on Fish Market. I mean, again, looking back to some older PPL days, we'd seen Splice play quad DPS on this map.
Right.
I mean, we've seen some really weird stuff. So wouldn't be too surprised. Makoa definitely struggles on this map with how wide it is.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, once again, Atlas is gone on Envy's side. Navi, in this case, deciding to see who their second ban is going to be. Well, really the fourth one in total. And I'm really just trying to consider, okay, there it is, the Makoa.
Okay.
You did mention it before, which makes
It was
sense.
an option.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely an option for them
fight test.
to be able
I
to
just hope
ban it,
you
but
lads
once again,
can
they're
keep up.
forcing that entire situation. So yeah. Barrick being first pick on Envy's side, just sort of denying Lazy, I guess, that Barrick. Of course, he is very, very well known for his Barrick as well as his Nara, so he still has that option. But Cassie and Strix being picked in response.
Which I think is good. I like Envy picking Barrick to start because Barrick's definitely the best point tank on this map. Nara, when she's on the point, isn't really going to do much more than capture the point. Her chip damage is really only good for whoever's trading directly into her. Barrick can also, like, spam at the backlines and have some pressure that way. Cassie Strix, definitely two of the stronger backlines, and Fish Market is very sided towards those characters in general. It's kind of why Navi ended up shifting that way. But Envy, they're going with the best tanks to go with Genos, grabbing that too, and now Navi are going to be forced to take more of a pocket healer or potentially a Furia, and then maybe going triple DPS and getting really aggressive that way.
Right, exactly. I mean, Maldamba being picked now, that's interesting because we don't see him as often. Of course, the Rezil playing a very huge factor into whether he's actually picked or not, especially when you have Strix is currently continually whispering in my ear as I'm talking about him in this case. Maldamba doing a very, very good job with the healing. But of course, it's a little bit harder to be able to try and do that with the Rezil. And Nara being there as well, being picked out, of course, for Lazy. Leon being hovered, which I can imagine her being picked, trying maybe deal with that Strix and Maeve, I guess, to put a little bit more pressure on that backline.
Yeah, more than likely. I mean, Leon's definitely really good at doing counter backline stuff, but it really just comes down to a skill matchup when you're that far away from the enemy. You know, a lot of just, if your Cassie's hitting the left click and the blast shot from across the map, then she might be winning that engagement. I think the Damba pickup is purely to be combined with the Inara, though. I think that's to give the Inara speed spirits, to let her actually do things on the map rather than just capture the objective. It's definitely an option. It's definitely a combo that we've seen for a pretty long time. At least back in the day, Speed Spirit's really huge for that. But right now, looking at this, I think Envy were kind of indecisive, but we might be ending up on this Maeve Eevee. Only Cassie is really, I mean, both of the DPSs on Navi are okay at counterflanking, but they're definitely not at the level of like a Leon at dealing with them.
Right, exactly. I mean, like, that's what's interesting is that they picked the Maeve Eevee. I'm assuming, I mean, of course, they're going to try and put some pressure onto that Strix, onto that backline, be able to keep him a little bit more pressured than normal in this case. I mean, to be honest with you, I like the Maeve Eevee. It's going to make Strix and Cassie think twice. And Navi bringing out their, at least, signature for this split, their triple DPS.
Yeah, and the triple DPS is really good on this map because of how good it is to just spam and surround the point. It's kind of always, it is kind of the power of triple DPS just overwhelming whatever angle you try to take. Willow's definitely going to work out, I think, for that. Specifically, at least for burning the point. Dead Zone really powerful in that sense. And just so much potential damage from Na'Vi. It's going to be a lot on the back of Rubu and how well he can pressure those backlines.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. I mean, Willow, once again, a character it is that we typically see nowadays. Either she's banned or she's picked in this case. Going to be really strong to deal with that Barrett. Going to be really strong to deal with that Genos as well. It's going to be a lot harder for him to be able to heal. Quickly, who do you think, whose team do you like better in this case?
I'm actually going to have to give it to Envy. I think the double flanker could be good considering Na'Vi don't really have a great hard counter to it.
Yeah, I completely agree
It's also
with that too. Yeah.
Fish Market
Well,
and,
sure,
and
yeah.
Envy. Sure. I think they could have anything, and I could say Envy, and it might just be right.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, once again, Fish Market is their map. Here we go. Game 3 already on the way. 2-0 in Navi's favor. Casters, what do you guys think?
I think we're getting a little bit of spice here today. Fun. I have the spicy socks on. We get Fish Market. We get Frog Isle. Moji on Jaguar Falls. A lot of fun. First 3 games in this new meta. I cannot wait to see what the rest of the day has in store. Technically an infamous map here in this matchup. This is where Envy sealed things up last year in the World Championships. Last time these two teams will play on it in the regular season. And Envy are looking for this map to come up big for them. Down 2-0 in the set, down 3-0. That's a very slippery slope.
This is a notoriously Envy map, right?
Yes,
when it comes
you're
down to
right.
it. They have been the most successful, I think, that we have seen. I would argue in years, like they've been very consistent on Fish Market, which is not something I think we've been able to truly say about a team.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I feel like with, maybe some war flashbacks whenever Na'Vi happen to see it, they're probably trying to figure it out. And, based on the drafts, they've got a little bit more going for them.
Right.
It's just if they can kind of crack the shell that is Envy.
Well, Random Noob's going to get his 3rd attempt at Eevee in this set. Rubu kind of 3v1ing there, is able to push himself backwards, but that's just too much damage. Up until this point, Random Noob got a couple kills into the ice block. Not enough to stay alive, though, as Spunky some good shots. Cleans that one up. Good flare from Mutu. Seals up this mid-fight. Natus Vincere were on the back foot. They found themselves a big win as Envy respawn and look to retake the point.
A lot of this is going to be how well can you kind of deal with and maybe envelop the aggression coming through. And Mutu's kind of built to do that. Long-range damage coming through, but Dexterous 5. 50% swap speed. He's pulling out his pistol about as quick as you can. And when it comes down to, Maeve is on me, Eevee's on me, that's going to be
what you want,
pop
right?
him for 1,200, switch to the pistol, finish him off as fast as you can. Ideally, you're still going to get some help probably from Minu, but at the end of the day, it's a way to deal with the aggression.
He does it with the best of them. Big trade out there onto Rubu. The flanker's doing it for Envy right now, but maybe just not enough. This is a big trade if Ninu's able to stay alive, which he doesn't. Eevee, big 3 kills in this fight for Random Noob. May have just saved this first point. Mr. Hayes comes back in as well. And Envy had enough on the point where they can actually zone and maybe take the win, and not a moment too soon. 99% for Natus Vincere. One more shot to maybe contest.
I mean, being able to come through, it's gonna be close, and they don't have anyone with the mobility of Eevee and Maeve to be able to get there.
It's a
That's
big fight
another
back.
good thing about Envy's draft is just we have the 2 that are known for being able to get overtime if the tank's not there. And so as long as they have that amount of control, they can get 40% on the point.
Yep.
Usually, I'm gonna give them the win on it.
Sure.
But there's still a lot more work, I think, to be able to get through Na'Vi. I don't
Yes.
think it's going to be as easy as it has been in the past.
No, I wouldn't assume so either. It's a tough map to push on until you kind of get up and over that peak, and then once you start hitting your shots on respawning members of Natus Vincere, things become a little bit clearer. Mutu, the wide angle, going to keep himself safe. But look at the mobility of Envy. I mean, if they are kind of privy to where Mutu is standing, that's an easy Eevee blink, an easy Maeve jump away. But Ninu there for a little bit of peel if it comes to that. Payload stalled out here. Ninu dropping some seedlings, trying to zone out. And this is the line you expect to see drawn on the defensive end.
This is actually like the line of the dynamic shift, right? This is almost where you have to defend,
Yep.
or it becomes near impossible to be able to hold on to it. Fae Flight's going to be popped because they recognize how important this is. And that's a good 3-man
Huge
seismic
Fae
back.
Flight. Oh, he goes right over the top and has some great targets to find. He doesn't have any kills, Ninu, not yet. But he set up Phoenix and Mutu for serious success there. And didn't really mention it. Triple DPS for Natus Vincere. Almost went by my wayside. Lazy on the Inara. Spunky, of course, healing with the Damba. Got a little Phoenix flexing on the Cassie.
And it's funny because this still plays into Phoenix versus Rubu. Like, I mean, when it comes down to it, Phoenix should have the better end of that matchup, and his job is kind of the Rubu hunter at this point. Not just the hunter's daughter, but trying to find anyone and everyone he can on the wayside. But pop those shields, make him feel uncomfortable. Don't let him get as aggressive as he is right now. And with the help of a nice Dread Serpent, keep them on their toes.
He does just that. Good snapshot from Mutu. Seals up the double kill. Not looking like a good push right now for Envy. Still 30 seconds left. Mutu shooting some shields. Get himself a little bit of something there. 19 seconds left now. This becomes a little bit more difficult for Envy to move all the way forward here with 15 seconds left. Of course, you always have to look backdoor potential, but not so much right now. Natus Vincere are going to group themselves up right by this payload and try to even prevent overtime.
And with Eevee and Maeve, both of them are very capable. I like where Mutu kind of set up, specifically because it's in that position to snipe them off in the event they make it around.
Yeah.
Sniff out random noob and just stop them in their tracks.
They were just too staggered out there. Toki was kind of the last one to die. So he was way back by the time Random Noob was able to get a touch. But a big first fight from this Eevee. I mean, we talk about Envy being a comfort pick style of team. Not many more comfortable for Random Noob in this Eevee.
Really good shots. You
Yeah.
can tell he's zoned in here. And that's, I mean, what, 2 games in a row now. This is his 3rd that he's been able to pick this up. That's when it gets deadly. Like, when you're in the zone with Maeve, she's very rhythm-based, but once you have that down, it's just, okay, snap back in, everything is second nature, and they skyrocket in terms of deadliness. 6, 4, and 3 might not reflect it, but top damage on his team, being able to kind of deal with a triple DPS in a good manner. Around your objective, that's one of the best things you can have behind you.
And this is one where Mutu, top damage in the game by, 10,000 on his own team, but 14,000 to Random Noob. It's these shots are going to be so important. These duels on the right-hand side right now, nearly getting him through that flight there. He's able to back himself off. 48% for Natus Vincere. They're going to fight from the point in typical Natus Vincere fashion. First blood to Rock Monkey. Spunky dying off now. 3 members of the triple DPS all zoned back. Rock Monkey thinks twice about it. Gets himself to safety, but might look to re-engage on Phoenix with a cheeky blink there. Good shots into the back of Mutu, and a good fight there from Envy to get themselves on the point.
Being able to get this aggressive, potentially take care of Phoenix as deep as he is and run him off. But, I mean, look at it in the other way. 6 seconds now, no Phoenix, still up on the clock while the rest of the team has to come in and fight back. 84%. It's very difficult to crack that shell. And again, Envy have this mid-fight on lock.
Yeah, in your opinion, do you think, I mean, because Envy now have won both of the mids pretty convincingly, a little bit of back and forth. Does triple DPS just falter a little bit maybe on these mids, or Envy just kind of playing it better?
I think Envy are just playing it better. I think this is actually a notorious triple DPS map.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very rare to leave a mid-fight and 9 ults are up right now. I mean, it doesn't happen too often. Part of that is going to be the kind of range it takes to get back. Very much like if you want to look at old maps in a similar vein, Timber Mill, that kind of cracked from the same egg that is Fish Market. Both points, both spawn points are so far away from the objective that if you don't use your ults in the first fight and you lose it, you're probably going to retain them for a long while. But Envy right now, I mean, you put Ruckus under technically the triple DPS boot, you give them the Luminary, they're just kind of out-damaging Na'Vi in the important matters.
Yeah, definitely. The Luminary boost, despite being against triple DPS, might pull things back a little closer to even damage-wise. Hexafire from Rubu just gets him some damage into that Narwhal. Big seismic crash, but still no kills except for that one from Mutu. This fight all in favor of Envy. The mobility just too much for Natus Vincere to deal with. Now it's Phoenix and Spunky, the last 2 alive on the defensive end. The respawns are here, not in time, and Envy grab point number 3, 1 point away from their first win this set.
Just being able to keep the pace rolling forward. The double flank's definitely working out for them. And again, I think that's the biggest thing. Not only right now, I mean, it does help, I think, that their coach's name is Meta Pusher, but having to adjust to the meta that is coming through. But also, dancing around maps that you know very well and figuring out what kind of aggression you need to go with is, do we send Maeve off to the left, Eevee off to the right, or vice versa? Like, how do we approach Mutu to address him as a threat? How do we lock down Ninu? How do we lock down Phoenix? So far, they've been doing it pretty much spot on every single time. And so for Na'Vi, it's more, how do you adjust to that? Figure something out. You have to stop them, but it's so hard to lock them down. You don't have enough CC.
Yeah, I mean, Mutu still keeping pace. 17K or so top damage. Great slash line to boot, but it's not really been there for the rest of Natus Vincere. Maybe one final mid fight here for Envy to get them on the board set-wise. Natus Vincere back fighting from the point with Lazy, as you would expect. There's a big Faith Light. Good shots from Phoenix onto Random Noob. A lot of that flank potential now missing. He is positioning himself aggressively. The dodge roll in. One more flurry of daggers from Rock Monkey trades him out. But the rest of this fight has been all Natus Vincere all day. Midnight drops down from Envy to re-engage.
I mean, 89%. They really only need couple more seconds on the objective to try and seal the deal here. Rubu's trying to fight on the side, but they're just staggered out enough, just low enough on Envy that it's going to be difficult to keep this overtime rolling for you.
And overtime starting to evaporate. The fight on the mid, secondary to this fight on the back side. Mr. Hayes falls off, not enough healing left for Envy. Great control towards the mid, puts Natus Vincere with a chance to tie.
Locking him down. Still going to be able to get a kill there for Random Noob at the end, but, you know, kind of a moot point, I guess, for him. Probably going to have Lazy come back in before any big fights happen. And this payload should get moving kind of opposite of what we've seen so far as well. I mean, Jag Falls is kind of middle of the road. I'd still say a little faster of a push.
Yeah.
Frog Isle is an incredibly fast push. Fish Market
nice shot.
is one of the lengthiest paths you will walk around because this first corner you have to kind of do a U-turn from the objective before you can truly feel like you're making any progress.
It's got to be aggravating if you're a player because there's just an archway right there that could go next to the stairs, but instead the cart decides to go all the way around. Mutu and Lazy are going to get staggered. Good start to the defense here from Envy. No points to gain for them, but Natus Vincere could tie it with a successful push, but plenty of ground to make up. Now you're effectively playing defense like you would if Envy were pushing, and this is not an easy zone to break out of.
No, again, this part of the map, specifically on either side, is usually going to be the kind of like the line to crack. You make it past there as the aggressor, you can usually convert. If you can break this defense here from Envy, you might be able to get back to around the payload before they're able to fight back. You have to win, and right now it's kind of in favor of Na'Vi with the last couple of kills there. They're going to be able to kind of put their names up on the board.
I mean, the kills are yes, but the timer rather is not. Natus Vincere 5 ultimate strong. Envy using just a couple more. Have Hexafire and Dome Shield for the defense. Mutu's just going to try to plug some shots through the support beams there of these houses. Actually catches the flare. Not a bad shot. Seen a bunch of those recently, the big flare bounce shots for a little tick damage. Mutu definitely one who can find those shots. We round this maybe last U-turn. Rubu dying off first is actually pretty big, as well as Random Noob. Now you're relying, okay, never mind, not Tulky. Everyone's going to get swept here from Envy, so they're going to make up a lot of ground. If they're able to mantle this hill, things become a little bit more difficult.
And luckily the timer is not necessarily on their side, but at least for breaking the hill, it's
right.
going to allow them to get over there. Overtime towards the very end, very similar to what we've seen at the end of Fish Market several times. And they have ults, and they're willing to dump them, but Phoenix going down first creates a divide.
You know, as tough as it is distance-wise, you're effectively wide open on that hill right there on the downward swing, where if you stagger out the enemy team and you're kind of fighting at an advantage when that payload is moving down, that's when maybe it's a little easier. But if you're at an even fight, you're pretty wide out in the open, especially if you have to stand on the payload.
Especially running a triple DPS, you need either 2 kills to come out right as that hits overtime for Na'Vi, or you need Lazy to make that decision of, do I fight with the team on the side, or do I go and unfortunately take up the job that I have to do, which is just soak up damage. Damage sponge as best he can and try to be up there. But he was on the sidelines. He was helping. He was being very aggressive. But there was no one who could really withstand the damage on the objective. That's kind of why we see kind of more standard compositions. Like, even with, Ruckus not being the most tanky tank, still got a lot of health you have to burn through before you kill him, and he can deal out a good chunk of damage in the process.
Not wrong. There goes the Ice Storm, but Random Noob doesn't find any value for it. Dome Shield as well for Envy. They're starting off this fight aggressively, but Natus Vincere answer back with some aggression of their own. Hexafire, well placed from Rubu, but unfortunately yet again catching just a little bit too much damage into Lazy's wall. But finally some kills for Envy start to fill up your kill feed. Just too much damage to deal with for Natus Vincere. Mutu undealt with throughout that entire fight. 62% for Natus Vincere, and things are looking good for them to tie it up.
Phoenix, for someone who doesn't get to flex too often onto DPS, is playing this Cassie very cognizant of what EV's going to be trying to do. He's finding a lot of good shots to stop Random Noob's aggression, and even chasing him down in moments like this to cause a lot of trouble for him for just getting overtime.
Yeah, I mean, Mutu is one person you have to identify, but Phoenix as well. The mobility of the Cassie really being put on a show there. Lazy gets the kill, Phoenix does the damage. Overtime expires, and Natus Vincere fought their way back from 3 down. Tie this one up with a chance to go up 3-0 in the set.
And leaving it perfectly. I mean, staggered out, Tolkien just respawned. Now you get the rest of the team coming up, but that should at least guarantee some space on the very beginning of this. Granted, the first 70%, 60% of this push is notoriously difficult just to kind of keep rolling. The hill is probably the hardest part to get over, but this long, kind of arduous, slow-moving road feels the
big
worst
flare.
when you're playing.
Big flare. It is a big road to push down. Finding these picks, though, certainly helps. Spunky takes a little bit too much damage, but doesn't die. Instead, it's Random Noob who finds death at the hands of Mutu. Yeah, make it a triple, Lazy, why don't you? And this is the stagger you were talking about. This is where Natus Vincere can push forward once the cart gets into position. Make it uncomfortable for Envy. The timing not quite there. They're still going to have to fight it in this big open space, but plenty of time to do so.
Yeah, that's the key difference. A minute and a half to play with instead of, oh, we're going into overtime right now. And that leaves you opportunity to go for a Fae Flight. Lazy standing on the objective. Tolkien's taking too much.
Hey, you forgot about Ninu. The Willow flying in the Fae Flight up in the air, pouring down damage onto Envy. And that's all Natus Vincere need. They go down 3-0. They win 4 straight. And they win 3 straight in the set. Now just 1 game away from a big 4-0 over Team Envy.
I think that is probably the biggest mental blow to Envy as well. I mean, that is one of their best maps. It's one of the maps they've always been able to beat Na'Vi on and controlled for PPL history, at least for a year as of right now, right? And so it's definitely going to kind of come with that toll. It's going to take a little more effort, I think, not only from the coach, but from the team themselves to get them back in the zone and kind of re-solidify this. I mean, this is a notoriously Worlds 6-game set. Every other set, I believe, we had 6, 7, and 6. So you're looking at this, if this goes 4, it's the fastest it's ever been.
Yeah, not this much disparity between these two teams, at least in a while. Big game there, a little bit too much to focus for Envy on to Natus Vincere. The triple DPS really hitting home there for Na'Vi. 1 game away from a 4-0 in our first set of this PPL week. Find out if they do it in just a minute.
The Paladins Premier League is brought to you by Evil Mojo, developers of Paladins.
Welcome back, guys. Of course, what looked like what could be the very first win for Envy just turns out that Na'Vi were just putting on a little bit too much pressure. They wanted the win, and so therefore they were able to clutch it out. Now we're looking at a 3-0 in Na'Vi's favor. Envy, they've got a long climb to be able to make their way back.
Na'Vi had some great adaptations through that game, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that first mid, they were just in. I mean, that we saw Spunky diving in to pressure people in the back line and being able to go from that to kind of a more patient, punish them as you come in style. That was great by Na'Vi.
Right, yeah, I entirely agree with that. I mean, of course, you see it right here in the we will see it right here in the post game already with both Mutu at 113,000 damage, 91,877 as well for Phoenix in that case. But of course, I mean, Rock Monkey, Random Noob, both of them did extremely well. On Envy's side too, I mean, you can't discount them, but it's just Na'Vi, man. I mean, clearly they were able to climb back. They were able to make the adjustment, and they won because of it.
And they just keep punishing the tanks on Envy. Rubu 4 and 12, Toki 4 and 13. So hard for them to get anything done against the triple DPS that just knew how to rotate, knew how to punish them. And one thing I noticed early when they were looking at Mutu and his loadout in particular, which I wanted to mention, Roost being out, it's kind of just shifted away entirely, and now it's kind of opening a lot more mobility. Relentless 4 for more speed, Tactical Retreat 3 to allow for a lot more rotation. Let him do a lot more on this map in general. Being able to be mobile and rotate just makes that triple DPS so much more lethal.
I mean, you already see it right here. I mean, the Strix pick, we see it every now and again, of course, with those changes. Every shot it is that he gets, I believe, gives him 10% to his
with that card.
Yeah, right, yeah, specifically, yeah, let me specify that. With that card, to his credit, of course. And I mean, Strix played a very, very major role too. I mean, so did Lazy in this case.
So, that clip is being shown. We talked about this in the back. That clip is being showed because those are basically all Mutu skills that Lazy stole. So that's why we were watching that Lazy clip, because that really was a Mutu clip. That was the Mutu quad that got taken away by his beloved teammate. And really great play by him. I'm happy to see Strix being played a lot without that damage reduction card, because I felt like it was kind of not fun to play against and not even fun to play because you're just in scope all the time to get that damage reduction.
Right.
Now that you can be a lot more flexible with what you pick, I think it's opened things up for Strix a lot.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, once again, Envy's got a climb that they have to make, man.
They lost on Fish Market.
I mean, yeah, entirely, yeah. That's their map. And I mean, most of the time, with you saying that, I'd be like, well, yeah, no, duh, it's Fish Market. You know, who wouldn't lose on that? But for a team that literally has to their name the credit of Fish Market, they can play on it really well. They know the rotations. For them to be able to lose, I mean, Na'Vi, man, I mean, they're just looking too good today.
I talked about how they had to take it to the books, look at how they want to play around it, and clearly they have. Clearly they've studied. And Envy, I don't know what they have in their pocket that Na'Vi haven't looked at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Shattered Desert is what they're going to opt to go for, but at the same time, though, I'm a little bit skeptical. I mean, Envy, of course, has tons of good players on their team. I mean, they're a very good team, but at the same time, I really find it hard to believe for Envy to be able to try and make this come. It's a very, very long climb.
We've never seen a 4-0
yeah, right,
reverse comeback in the PPL. We got close last week with SSG, but not quite there yet. And Envy going to a really similar map in Shattered Desert, a little bit less high ground focus. It's weird to say high ground talking about Fish, but when you're looking at the mid fight, it definitely has some semblance of high ground. Those little small changes in elevation really do kind of change what you can play on the map.
Right, exactly. I mean, Genos Cassie gone, Atlas Makoa gone as well. 4 bans, all these 4 characters are off of the board. Envy opt to go for the con first pick, though. And I mean, that's really... I mean, that's interesting. Of course, it's not anything that you wouldn't expect coming out from necessarily Envy or anybody that decides to leave con open. We saw him banned a little bit every now and again, but the con pick on Envy first is really, really, I think that's going to play a very huge role in Shattered Desert.
He's really strong on this map because of that lack of micro elevation on the mid, not having that ability to go over his shield super easily. Kind of opens things up a lot for him on this map. And I don't know about giving up Ash for it, though. I mean, Ash and Strix for Na'Vi, very, very powerful. Ash able to cross a lot of ground, and we just saw what Mutu did with Strix, and now Envy's going to potentially open that up again, because both of these tanks I think that Envy are potentially picking are going to struggle crossing that distance.
Right, I mean, Envy, they were hovering the Inara at first. Obviously, they're going to go for the Furia, the Maeve as well. I mean, I can understand that. I feel like, at least in this case, the Furia, if you're trying to pick it, I feel like it could sort of try and counteract or really just try. They need the aggression. I feel like they need to be able to, just what I personally believe, of course you can confirm this or deny it, is that I feel like the Furia is being picked just to be able to push that aggression. They're down 3-0 at this point. They want to be able to act fast enough to where Na'Vi can adjust.
That and just the combo of May Furia is so powerful. Inflame Midnight.
True.
Not only are you moving that much faster, doing that much more damage, they can't see you coming. And if they can't counterplay you, it's going to be really rough. With Cassie banned, Maeve just gets all that much stronger without that counter there. So I think interesting draft by Envy to kind of end up with this. They took the only damage booster left in the support role, and they took the character that was no longer countered. So it's a good start by Envy, but now they're ending up with something they really like. I mean, just look at this across the board. We just saw Spunky play pretty well on the Damba, Barrack for Lazy, Ash for Phoenix, and they have the Strix that just performed so well. This is already looking rough for them, especially if Envy have to end up with the Shaolin.
Nothing but dust in the wind.
Shaolin ends up getting picked. I mean,
You
they
trespass and are
they
unwanted,
do decide
stranger.
to take the Shaolin. They decide to take the Anara, of course. I mean, once again, the point tank presence is left open. They opted to go for Barrack. Of course, they want to respond in kind to that with Anara. But at the same time, man, I mean, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about the Shaolin right now. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it.
They don't really have... it does kind of force Mutu off of unauthorized use, because if they want an easier counter to the Heat Haze, they have the Flare if he does go Crack Shot.
Right.
It does give them an option to play against that, but otherwise it's just they want a burst backline, but they don't want to have it be reliant on abilities. That's kind of why they didn't go to Leon. But now that Willow's up, they don't really have a great counter for her. I think it really does kind of fall onto Random and how well he can connect those mid-air daggers onto Ninu, because if he's not finding them mid-air to mid-air, that Willow's going to be really tough to stop for Envy.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I can completely understand that in this case. I mean, it's going to be hard for Shaolin to be able to hit those shots, especially on the Willow when she's fey flighting. I mean, unless you have like, and that's not to say that, of course, Shaolin, at least in this case, on Envy's side, is not going to be able to perform in the way he needs to. It's just that's hard for anybody to be able to hit those shots. I'm a little bit shaken up by this draft. We're going to have to see if Envy are going to be able to clutch this one out. But of course, we got to get right down to our casters to take us into it.
Well, for maybe one last time, welcome down into the caster booth. Fawn, shaken up by the Shaolin, Gormizer.
Yeah.
Are you quite as shaken up by the Shaolin?
I think this is a good map for him. I think he's going to have, well, his work cut out for him, but I mean,
Oh, yes.
anybody and everybody that has run Shaolin has been able to find a lot. There's more emotion than I think
Yes.
I've ever seen
That
on
was-
Spunky's face.
That was all of the emotion. That was his tank is now empty for the year. Now he goes back to being ice cold and calculated as he has been throughout this set. Two different team lineups. You see Rock Monkey nice and calm, petting his mascot, and then Spunky, the big roar, trying to push Navi forward one last time in this setting. And what a way to cap off a year of rematches in the World Finals for Natus Vincere. Fourth and final time they'll play. Maybe 4 straight wins.
I mean, being able to find it in maps that they don't normally go to, maps they normally ban. I mean, all these things that have been kind of against them, they've still been able to kind of oversee. And, well, right there is the combo between Mr. Hayes and Rock Monkey that if you let him hit all 4, he's going to be perfectly happy playing the Shaolin.
It's all about being comfortable and being able to find a spot to go into Planet, isn't it, for Shaolin? I mean, that is a huge burst of damage, but so often you have to cancel it or maybe move if somebody's looking to dive. And right now that's Lazy moving off to the right. 66% for Envy, no kills for Navi just yet. Lazy trying to go toe-to-toe with Anara. Envy realized that they can slow play this. They got themselves enough of a lead on the point that they can actually back off just a little bit. As Lazy continues his onslaught on the point. Another shot or two into Toki will seal that one up. Planted rings through. He's able to dance back behind the pillar there as Rock Monkey is undying so far in this game and has done a great job of zoning everyone from Natus Vincere back as they look to move forward one last time. One more shot onto Spunky would have done it. Now Mutu goes searching. 2 ships quietly passing in the night, but there's your shot, Mutu. Some good poke damage.
Your sight fails you. He's looking for the shots, but that's a good, healthy Rock Monkey. And he's able to come through. I anticipate some Illuminates going to be coming through in this game, but a good planted, going to be able to find the last shot. Envy just take this one clean.
That's the power of Shaolin. Nobody contested Rock Monkey throughout the beginning. I'm not sure he moved that entire mid-fight from the spot he was in until Mutu stepped too far to the side. And that's the whole basis. If Shaolin can go into planted and get all of his shots off and not have too much damage returned onto him, he's going to kind of shred through you.
It's actually that interesting vein where, you know, at the very end of the draft, they were looking over whether or not to get Willow right. And I had just said while we were sitting here in the booth waiting for it to get locked in, go ahead and lock in or go ahead and lock in Eevee. Like, just do it. That's what you're going to need in this kind of case. You need someone to kind of combat that, use the mobility. I think what Kresnik said about Willow is going to be very applicable, and we're going to see it. There's not as much people to quote-unquote counter her, but she doesn't have the same potency on Shattered as she does on some of these other maps.
Sure.
Maybe Ninu will be able to showcase that more in the future, but Eevee, Maeve, so mobile around this map and around this objective that it's very difficult to keep them locked down, and then all of a sudden there's more pressure on Rock Monkey.
Well, it's a 10th pick Willow. That's a great assert dominance. Sets up Lazy for a double. Phoenix with a best off tanks in the league. Oh, good wall. Payload moving itself forward. Toki is going to get it within an inch before he dies. Envy now have a minute left to find one last fight. And you don't even need an entire fight. If you can just kill Toki, or excuse me, kill Lazy and kill Phoenix, the rest don't matter as much if that payload's moving forward.
And that's where this pressure, where Phoenix is standing and already at half health, is going to be important. But if you get rid of the tanks, like you said, it's very easily done. And that payload's so close that they kind of have to stand near it.
Right.
So you know where they're going to be. You're coming into this with an advantage over Na'Vi.
Nice shot.
But it is a nice long-range
shot.
area. It's going to open up a lot more here for Mutu and for Ninu than it is for Envy.
That's the perfect clip of a sniper setup passed off to your flanker. Big plug shot onto Rock Monkey. Ninu's right in range to get the kill. Looking for one more shot onto Random Noob. You got the good off, but not the night. So he still has Midnight ready for the next round. Toki wants to keep going, though. They don't want to lose this great positioning that they've bought themselves. Seismic Crash gets him Mutu as 8 seconds is left on the clock. Overtime will begin. And Envy are looking to go up just one more point.
And if they can just blast this down, Tulki being gone,
Yeah,
no one's going to even be able to touch to get the overtime. That was kind of the string, I guess, for both teams. We got to keep Lazy alive. Got to keep Tulki alive. Whoever goes down first has the distinct disadvantage at the end of the round. Lucky, I think, overall for Na'Vi to be able to find that kill. In the right area, that portion of the map definitely favors their comp. But they're going to have to clean it up here.
Rock Monkey had a tear of a first mid fight in this game. Was unable to replicate that on the payload push. I mean, he had, I think, 3 of those 4 kills while fighting in the mid. Mr. Hayes at 2-0-12 doing what he needs to do. Lazy had a 5 streak on Natus Vincere doing what he needs to do as well. Alone at the top of the damage charts with 3 red behind him is Random Noob, so the Mave is starting to hit home a little bit for him as well. Rock Monkey positioning a little bit more aggressively. This is a big flank as well as the Inflame. They're going to maybe be able to catch out Mutu here, who I'm not sure is privy to this one. Big shot. Rubu cleans up the kill. Into the heat haze he goes, but Ninu staying alive and finding some damage.
The biggest thing for Ninu here is just being able to know that he doesn't necessarily have a hit scan presence looking at him, maybe being able to find some of these shots. Kills on a Random Noob, open it up, but it's still Rock Monkey, and that's who you need to get rid of.
Watch out, 96% on the Assert Dominance. If he had maybe one more shot, he would have had that charged up and ready. Envy used everything except for the overpower in this round, shrugging off some of that damage. Natus Vincere backing themselves off. No fast cap for either team. You now have Assert Dominance. You now have overpower. The off tanks with their ultimates could be the deciding factor as both of the teams move themselves forward. Back towards the mid. He's going to catch Spunky with the overpower. This will be a kill once Rock Monkey finishes him off. Look for the Assert Dominance to maybe turn things around for Phoenix. He's in a great spot. Down he drops, catches up the healer for Envy's side, so it's a 1-for-1 healer trade. Phoenix looking for some extra value. One more shot into Toki will seal up the frontliner here, and he's able to get out alive.
Just trying to stay alive, though, and that's the hard part. 280 health, 420 now, as he continues picking it up. The Random Noob's chasing him out, and Rock Monkey's chasing him down. And that's the thing. I said Illuminate's probably going to be big here. It works out better for Envy. I mean, they could get an Illuminate on Shaolin and an Illuminate on Mave, and then Mutu has nowhere to go. Who's going to get it on Na'Vi? I mean, Ninu could get it. Maybe you have Phoenix, but then they have to call out shots. The person who should theoretically be trading with Rock Monkey is Mutu. And Sniper versus Shaolin doesn't tend to work well.
Oh, and what was honestly kind of a treat to see was that big aggressive rotation that Rock Monkey and Rubu put on at the start of that mid. And Flame gets popped. That puts the Shaolin and the Khan in a better position. And Mutu is none the wiser, and they immediately blow him up, and now you have a Shaolin and a Khan in your back line. So well played there from Envy. They've had this mid so figured out. Natus Vincere were able to grab themselves a defense, and just some trades here to try to stall things out. As Spunky dies, double kill for Rubu. Payload inching ever closer, though.
As long as they can contest it just a little longer, right? Keep your ults up, charge up Assert Dominance. That'll definitely help you keep things alive. Let Phoenix and Lazy maybe pick up some kills, but it's just so difficult in this position as Na'Vi to showcase what your comp can do. As the payload progresses further down this push, again, it does open up way more for their draft to shine. but it's getting it to shine anywhere else. I mean, you can only shine on 20% of the map. That's not really good enough to do anything.
Right.
Except defend.
Right, except defend, which defend they've done. 11, 6, and 6 for Ninu. Top damage, it was 3, now again is 3. The battle between Shaolin and Willow is raging in the damage charts. Sounds like Overpower did connect for Rubu. I think that one went on to Ninu as Mutu's able to trade back. Great shield from Lazy, blocks off Rock Monkey's damage. One more shot. We'll actually trade this one back onto the Shaolin. Lazy does die, but the amount of damage he was able to return on to Rubu and Rock Monkey was pretty big and maybe game-changing as they can't push forward quite as far. That's Mutu looking for the shot. 18 seconds left, so not quite as close as they were last time, Envy. Natus Vincere feeling good about where they're at.
Mutu's having to play the lottery with the shots. So every time
is, isn't
Shaolin goes into that stealth, it's just, are you going to be over here? Shot in the dark, see if it works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the same thing that makes Strix so good is the same thing that's making Shaolin good right here. But admittedly, less stealth all around for Shaolin. It's still been enough to get him out of dodge almost every single time.
For the flick shot here. Little stealth for both of them. Toki a little bit too far forward there. Frontliners not present for Team Envy. Mr. Hayes, the last one contesting the payload here. Overtime is going to melt. Natus Vincere grabbed themselves another defense. It's been the same story where Rock Monkey in these mids has just been way too aggressive for Na'Vi to answer.
I think the biggest boon for Na'Vi here is the longer they push this, I mean, you're already up 3-0 in the set.
Yeah.
The more Envy gets kind of pressured, right?
Sure.
And so if you get this to 3-3, it's not the best spot for you. You'd rather it be a 3-0, but as long as you can keep it tied or yourself in the lead, they start to kind of feel that, I want to say, reverberate down from the top. And I mean, Rock Monkey's, well, he's the rock right now. I mean, 13, 5, and 9, he's the one kind of
Can you
stabilizing
smell what he's cooking?
this team. You can smell what he's cooking just fine. He's cooking up anytime he can see Mutu, maybe some Fairy there anytime he catches Ninu. But Rubu's right behind him. Toki's having a decent performance, but he's the one who is solid. He's the pillar that they're all kind of around.
They're not going to go for the same flank all the way around this time. They probably are privy to that now. Natus Vincere, there's your Inflame. Envy are looking to capitalize on it. Do get a kill onto Phoenix on Na'Vi's side, so that's a big frontline matchup to win. Lazy's going to try to stall this one out. Big Dome Shield forces everyone from Envy backwards. The engagement between Random Noob and Mutu continues on the backline, though. Looks like Mutu was getting the better of that one, but Random Noob hits the final daggers and kills off the Strix, and now Lazy, once the Dome Shield wears out, he's all alone. Here's a big Fae Plate from Ninu, maybe able to turn this one around.
And so far, just showcasing, I think, the downsides of Maldamba, and that is just that Spunky can't be everywhere.
Ow.
When he was playing around on Genos, you can heal through walls, you can hit anybody, you don't have to worry about it. Maldamba doesn't have the same prowess. If you are losing one fight, he has to leave the current fight he's in, where he was with Mutu, to help out, in that case, Lazy. And either way, they both ended up dropping. It's kind of can't split your attention on two fronts.
It's a nice flashbang. Good overpower, saved for the assert dominance. Phoenix had to use it in that moment, but Rubu had the trigger just waiting on that overpower. Another Inflame for Mr. Hayes comes out as well. It's a 3 versus 2. Natus Vincere in the lead on this one, and that's maybe all they need.
Wow.
Natus Vincere with a big team fight are going to win their first mid of Shattered Desert.
I think really well played from Envy, really well targeted. They got rid of the tanks, and the tanks were important, but just smart moves from Na'Vi as a whole. Really good calling to be able to come down and recognize where their advantage was just stand on the point, someone get over there, and if it comes down to Willow, Strix, and Maldamba, make the stand. Do whatever you can. Do not do anything but die on this objective.
Right.
And as long as you're willing to do that, we can find ourselves a point.
Now we get our first look at the Natus Vincere offense on Shattered Desert after Envy has controlled the rest of this game. Maybe Willow on Ninu piloting the Willow will feel a little bit more comfortable here. Rock Monkey into the stealth, catches a turret with the shot. Lazy thankful for that body block, and Mutu is just playing sneaky enough. Lazy has been so aggressive this game. I mean, you're playing a Barrack. That's why you so often see him in top damage. Does a good bit. Into the Heat Haze for Rock Monkey. He's going to get the healing from Mr. Hayes. So that's a big Dread Serpent for Natus Vincere to find themselves some peel, but no kills, unfortunately, just yet.
Good shots still from Rock. Yeah, just being able to find the pop. Doing the 2-tap thing. Planted. I mean, I feel like I've seen it actually get shot through all of its planted shots more today than I've seen in most Shaolin history, where it comes down to it. Usually you don't even wait for the end. You either hit one or you cancel. That's the way it goes. But Rock Monkey's been on point. You know, maybe if you were feeling iffy about the Shaolin, it is not the weak link right now. And there honestly isn't really feeling like a weak link for Envy.
Yeah.
It just comes down to who happens to get the better edge in the fight. And a lot of that's being won by these tanks.
I was going to say, the front line of Not V has been just absolutely running down Envy. Rubu's had a good game on the con, but I've just seen a few times where you know, it's Phoenix moving far forward and even Lazy on the barrack, so aggressive that sometimes it, I think, catches Envy off guard.
Looking and recognizing the target. Get rid of Random Noob, you get rid of a lot of pressure for your backline. Unfortunately, it's not going to get rid of Rubu right now. That hit scan presence is enough to cause a lot of trouble here for Ninu.
No, the battle shout might have caught him off guard.
That actually might be enough to let
Both
Rubu
shields traded out.
win this.
There you go. Shot off the wall. There's your AoE damage. That
King of the Ring!
Yeah, wait, that's King of the Ring redo. Round 2, Phoenix wins it again. Not the same champions, but same result. There's your defense. All right, big one here for Envy. Either you lose the set 4-0 or you fight your way back into it. 0.7 on Shattered Desert carries a pretty big weight as we round out maybe the final game in this set.
I think a lot of pressure kind of falling onto Random Noob there as you see him on your screen. Potentially perform here. I mean, 10, 12, and 10. He's been able to get his kills. He's been able to track him down, but he has been trading it out with his life very often. So he's looking for those bright, shining moments to come through. Rubu and Rock Monkey, 2 of the 3 Rs are incredibly solid. They are the foundation that is holding up the rest of the team right now. And if you just get that little bit of input somewhere else, this game will absolutely fall in Envy's favor.
That's what they look for. They have 5 ultimates ready, where Natus Vincere effectively have 4, but a little quicker charging on the flashbang. We'll have that one up. Relatively even mid-fight here. Who finds the most value? Random Noob didn't quite know where Mutu was. Thought he might have been around the corner, but he didn't get an effective trade in there. There's your Faith Light. Rubu catching too much damage. Commander's grab's gonna just delay his life a little bit, and now Mr. Hayes is the target of Ninu here. He's wreaking havoc in the back line of Envy. The front line's not faring much better. They are able to trade some out, Spunky being one of them, which might be a saving grace for Envy, but the rest of these engagements have all been Natus Vincere. They use a lot, still having assert dominance, but Midnight and Overpower for Envy, they wait in the wings.
I genuinely don't think Na'Vi could have gotten a better 2 targets with that Faith Light. Being able to get rid of Rubu and Mr. Hayes is probably the perfect lineup for you. It's the tank that's been pressuring you out, and the healer that's going to keep him alive. Now, though, they have to deal with them both in full force. Midnight's popped, and in Flame, you're on a timer. Once that's back up, Na'Vi might lose this.
Flame halfway there. Phoenix knows that an Overpower awaits. The moment assert dominance drops down. 57% for Envy. Phoenix gets aggressive. Now's the time, Rubu. He does end up connecting, but they don't get the kill. Rubu drops off instead. Toki is able to clean up Ninu. It's a 1-for-1 trade. Natus Vincere on the point. Big moments here for Rock Monkey, carrying that damage flag for Team Envy. But Phoenix stays alive. Toki dies. And now it's Natus Vincere looking for the zone and looking for the win.
They tie it up and surpass with Envy here, 75-66. Phoenix comes through. It's going to be one more good fight from Envy. They have the Inflame. It's been able to come through, and it's popped, but Rock Monkey's already dead.
Big Faith Light as well for Ninu. That one charged up just with the Inflame. He's found some good value. One more dagger for Random Noob will do it. Spunky and Phoenix find themselves some kills. No more healing for Uranara. He has to throw up the wall to try to stay alive, but Ninu finds the flank. There's a Dread Serpent from Spunky. That's going to seal the game. That's going to seal the set. 4-0 for Natus Vincere.
And well fought. I mean, early on, like, that game looked like it could very feasibly be a 4-0 for Envy, that they were going to be able to kind of claw it back and at least stay alive for one more game. But that was just well adapted. The one thing that Na'Vi have always done incredibly well, and something that I think kind of has to be looked at, is that now, I mean, yeah, Ninu's the new factor for them, but it doesn't seem to be changing too much. They're adapting just as well as they did a year ago.
Did you expect that, Gore? 4-0, honestly.
No,
I didn't.
I expected a 4-2, and you could have told me either team winning, and I would have agreed with you, but
wow,
a 4-0 for Na'Vi was not in my book today.
Big day from Natus Vincere. Look back at Fish Market. They go up 3 Envy, and then Na'Vi win 4 straight to take that map. Another one, Envy, win first mid, can't push. Win second mid, can't push. Then, you get a defense on the opposite side to tie up the game. But so much seemed to be in control of Envy throughout this game, or at least the last couple of maps. But Natus Vincere with some great adjustments were able to seal this one up.
And again, not just looking at it, Fish Market, a map that Envy notoriously wins. Frog Isle, a map that Na'Vi tends to ban out, and being able to find both of those and fighting back from behind both times. Very impressive from them. That's 3 maps in a row where they were backs against the wall and Na'Vi just kind of hunkered down.
Well, Na'Vi are definitely making a case for why they deserve that #1 spot. Fun first set of the day, 4-0 for Na'Vi. Desk, what are you thinking?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm thinking. A very clean 4-0 sweep already for Natus Vincere. Very, very little chance for Envy to really try and spread their wings here. All the time, it just seemed like throughout these games they were just being smothered, Kresnik. At least that's what it was that I felt like was the case. I mean, they tried to do what they could. Envy started that steady climb, but it just wasn't enough, and I'm sure we can see it in the post-game stats too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some of the ways that they were playing around the ultimates were really smart. I was actually very impressed with how the Shaw ended up working for Envy, with the way Rock was kind of using his invisibility to extend fights a lot longer than they had to. But as the game went on, as the items went online, things just kind of went more and more towards Na'Vi's side. No Illuminates needed against that Shaw, but everything else, just the way they were rotating and playing around the ultimates, like how long Phoenix was baiting out the overpower in that very last fight, forcing Rubu to use it in a kind of poor position, I think, and Na'Vi just adapted really well.
Yeah, I mean, once again, like you take a look at the slash lines here. Rock Monkey did extremely well. 17-11, 11-10, 10-14 from Random Noob, 10-13 from Toki. It was sort of rough all around. Mr. Hayes with 29 assists. But, of course, Ninu is extremely prominent throughout this entire game. 19 kills most of the game, 19, 13, and 13. And this is why you get rid of Willow.
Yeah, I mean, he was the only member of Na'Vi that was positive for the majority of the game. And even on a map, you normally want to play Willow on maps that kind of have a decent height differential where you're spamming down at people a lot, or have like areas you can splash against them with a wall behind them. But Nino was making it work even on mostly flat ground that Shattered Desert is. Fayflight was doing a lot in terms of he could get away with so much in the Fae Flights because Random was usually off doing something else. And Rock Monkey, Shaw is really not consistent at dealing with the Fae Flight. So much pressure came in from Ninu in terms of countering the healing and just getting good chip damage around corners.
Right, of course. And I mean, it's so difficult for when there are characters like this, like Willow, that can stop as much healing as it is because, of course, Envy has to adapt to that. Dead Zone gets dropped. You got to move out of the way. You don't want to just sit there and just take all of it because you won't get any healing. So, I mean, the Willow plays such a pivotal role throughout this, and when you put somebody like Ninu on it, of course it's going to be just as good as you would have expected it to be.
Especially since they had the Barrack in that matchup, being just forcing the Inara to have to play into the dead zone. It really does side that point fight even further, I think, in the favor of Na'Vi. They were playing so well around that objective pressure that they're able to gain because of that.
Yeah, I mean, once again, like allowing the Willow to try and get through, of course you're going to have some issues whenever it is that you're actually dealing with it. Of course, Shaolin, I was a little bit shaken up about it in the draft too. I wasn't a huge fan of it because it's a lot harder to be able to hit those shots, especially when you need to be able to hit them in such a very, very important manner. However, we do have the interview with the winners already, so we're going to throw it right over to them to see what their thoughts are.
Thank you very much, fellas. Sitting over here with Na'Vi, big winners of set number 1 of this PPL Thursday. Generically, I mean, big 4-0 is traditionally a pretty close set. Did you expect for everything to pretty much go in your favor today? As convincingly as it did.
No, I didn't actually. It was I was actually expecting like 4-2 either way, 4-3, but somehow we felt good today and it went fine.
So I've kind of gotten used to seeing you guys ban out Frog Isle, but this time around it was not only let through, but picked, and you were able to win it. So what has kind of shifted to allow that? Like, what was it, Timber and Frozen or Timber and Ice from you guys instead?
Mainly our score right now in the PPL basically solidifies the spot at Worlds already for us. So that means that we have to start practicing other maps, and it allows us to like take maps that are less favored for us, but it gives us the practice that we need on it, so we are more flexible when it comes to the world stage.
Definitely a good mindset to have. And as well, this is the first round of PPL games we've had on this new update. Torvald being the biggest kind of change we've seen in picks and bans. For you specifically, Phoenix, we've seen some flexibility, got a little Fernando out of you today. Where does that kind of frontline meta stand? Similar spot? Do the bans change up at all?
The Fernando change is actually like pretty strong. I noticed very fast that it went from a 16-second cooldown to 8 seconds if you run the loadout, which is basically half the cooldown on shield. It makes you very survivable. I'm sure people will pick it up as soon as they saw it now today. It's very strong. And when it comes to Torvald is now like a shield bot without, like, he has a luminary on one person with a shield. So Wrecker counters it. So it depends, like if you have an Inar or an Atlas where you don't have an auto tank that has a shield, then you can get away with it. But then again, you're missing a character. Even though I showed that you can play DPS Torvald in the 1v1.
That's right.
Well, I mean, along with this update, you know, bans have shifted around, and we've also seen kind of the heralding these last couple of weeks specifically of supports doing way more. Like Mr. Hayes was the rare occurrence where he'd get like a 9-2 and 20-something Furia. But now that's happening on kind of everybody. And I mean, Spunky, this entire set, you were just on fire. What was kind of helping contribute to that?
Well, to be honest, I want to go grind World of Warcraft.
You just gotta get home.
But yeah, it's like, I think, in all seriousness, it's like, I feel like all the supports have been doing the same all the time, but it just, for some reason, it's like people are noticing it more, like casters and overall everybody.
Don't think much changed in the playstyle of the supports. It's just the support's getting more spotlight now.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Either way, you're under the spotlight and you're doing incredibly well under it. A 4-0 over Envy this time around. Na'Vi are your victors. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Skillshot, the official production partner of the Paladins Premier League.